OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
It's bang on 7:30 this Thursday morning. You're very welcome along to OTB AM. I'm Jerry Gilroy and he's Owen Sheahan. Owen, how are you? Welcome back.
Thank you very much. How are things?
How are you feeling, Owen?
Good. Yeah, feeling good. It was not so good this time yesterday.
You weren't here. People
here.
noticed, by the way. There was like at least one person texted in going, "Where's the little guy with the red hair?"
That was my burner account. I'm glad my messages actually get seen. I'm glad to finally be seen.
The other thing, it was noticeable too. Sorry, I'm diverting here from what we were supposed to talk about. It seems now like you are the grand poobah of the Kerry mafia when it comes to the media. Everybody's following your line. I expected Darragh O'Shea to come out and say the dubs are there to be taken, but yesterday's column was very much in keeping with the fact that you had not given him permission in the power rankings to say that Kerry were going to win the All-Ireland. And I just wondered if there'd been some kind of weird power grab or a paradigm shift where instead of you listening in on those conversations like a clubhouse chat room, you are actually the one who is like sending out the beep 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 beep, the Morse code, going no, hold. It's only when Dublin are in complete conflagration, when there is a feud in the camp, that you will finally admit that Kerry are the favourites for this year's All-Ireland.
It's exactly how it works, and it was all part of the plan that I would not be here yesterday to discuss that Darragh O'Shea column. Clearly I should have taken today off as well, because it's just come up and this is very bad news that we're talking about.
I was on the bike on the way in. I was going, hang on a second.
Just dawned on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it seems that we've been cracked. Code 4, everyone, Code 4, abandon ship, abandon the mission, things have gone south.
So where were you yesterday, on?
I was, it just seems so lame to say, I was suffering from vaccine side effects. I got it bad. I got the Janssen, and oh God, what a hangover it was for 24 hours. I was actually on the phone to Tommy probably around 4 o'clock on Tuesday. A few hours after I got it, a good few hours after I got it, about 5 or 6 hours after I got it.
And I was how grand you were.
My exact line, I think, to Tommy on the phone was, they literally stick it straight into your bloodstream. If I was going to feel anything negative, I would have felt it by now. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure people who do heroin feel it straight away. I would have thought that if you're going to feel something from a vaccine, you're going to feel it straight away. And turns out it's not the case. Come 6 o'clock, I was starting to lose my focus a little bit, and I was like, this is going to be fine. Started to get the sweats. I was like, it's going to be fine. And popped some Panadol. And after some very strange dreams and some very weird night sweats and all that, and chattering of teeth that almost made my teeth crush, I woke up yesterday morning. I was like, guys, I ain't going to make it.
Any good dreams, like any Tony Soprano-esque?
The good news for people watching this show this morning is that I can't remember dreams, because I'm sure they would have been delighted to hear somebody else's dreams. Everybody loves that.
Exactly. It's everybody's favourite thing.
Everybody's favourite thing.
Please interpret my dream for me. It's 7:33 this morning. You're very welcome to OTB AM. As I said, we're here with you all the way until 10 o'clock. We're going to talk about one thing before we get into our first couple of features this morning, and this is the fact that for the first time ever, there's a bit of trash talk going on. Is it trash talk? Has this gone beyond self-confidence into trash talk when it comes to a Cork-Kerry rivalry? Cork are massive underdogs, despite the fact that the last time these two teams played in the championship, Cork beat Kerry this weekend. But Sean Powder's having none of the underdog tag, is he?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's trash talk. I'd say it's just confidence, and you'd love to see it. On the back of the Irish Daily Star this morning, the headline is Rebel Yell, and it's a picture of Sean Powder there. He says, Cork are ready to rock Kingdom again. This was media that was done, I think, last week, and obviously there was a bit of an embargo on it, but the Star seems to be the only ones splashing it this morning, and it's worthy of the splash. It's worthy of being on your back page. It's great content here from Sean Powder. He says, I fully believe we're going to beat them on Sunday. We've beaten them all the way up, under 21, and we beat them last year. I feel we've bonded following the loss of Tipperary. Games like Clare and Limerick the last day, we would have lost those matches 2 or 3 years ago. He talks about playing with a lot of these Kerry players on the Sigerson Cup football team with UL. He's actually a medical student there, and he would have played against him as well with a couple of the lads who are in UCC. He says that Killian Spillane, Tom O'Sullivan, Brina Biogliac, I've played with a few of them all right. That's another reason why I believe we can beat them. I've played with them, and there's no difference between our lads and their lads. There's people who kind of refer to last year as a bit of an ambush, and he says, well, it wouldn't be an ambush if it's 2 in a row. Tipperary's gnawing away at the back of our minds as well. We have a Munster final to rectify as well. And he kind of talks about the younger players that are coming through, players that have started to get one over Kerry at under 20, under 21 level recently, and he says the younger players have a bit of an arrogance about them. Since winning the under 20 final, they feel like we can take on the world that has fed up to the older fellas. I feel we have a good combination of younger lads and older lads. There's a real belief that we're going to Killarney to win a Munster final. I love this. I love a player coming out and saying, I fully believe we're going to beat them. It makes absolutely no difference to how the opposite team are going to be motivated. There is this nonsense theory out there that Kerry might read this and all of a sudden get more motivated to beat Cork after reading this. That is absolute nonsense. It just feeds into the hype around the game. It feeds into our enjoyment of the game, and it's brilliant. I want to see more of this. And if Kerry beat Cork well on Sunday, it'll have nothing to do with these comments. And I would love for more players to feel as safe as Sean Powter did coming out and given this sort of stuff in the media beforehand.
Is Peter Keane just the type of manager, though, who will bring this up? That he's old school in some terms?
I think Peter Keane will be the type of manager who will have already fed into this sort of thing without needing these comments. I think that one of the forgotten, well, it's not a forgotten narrative, but one of the underplayed narratives going into this Munster final is that Kerry aren't the only ones with a point to prove after last year's Munster Championship. Cork's collapse in the Munster final.
Cork got away with it in a way that Kerry didn't. For whatever reason. Because everybody's so happy about the fact that Tip won and they were wearing their new jerseys.
In the media, yeah, for sure.
Whereas actually, like, it was kind of, Cork coughed up a fairly handy Munster title, a massive breakthrough for them, having done all the hard work of dumping a Kerry team who might be the best team in the country out of the championship.
And you can be sure that this Cork team with that attitude, could they have given Mayo a game in the All-Ireland semi-final last year? They certainly would have looked at the draw, and being drawn against the Connacht winners rather than the Leinster winners, for example, last year, they would have thought to themselves after winning that Munster final, if they'd won it, God, we could be thinking All-Ireland final here. That is the Cork mentality. And then they blew it in the Munster final. They completely blew it, just like Kerry blew the semi-final. So you've got two teams taking part in the Munster final this year who completely bottled it last year. And I think that the narrative has been one of these teams bottled it last year. Not true. Both of them did. So they're two highly motivated teams. And I think that is what Peter Keane will be pointing to his team in the build-up.
Did you call both teams bottlers? That's essentially it.
Yeah, they both bottled it last year. There's no question about it. Kerry bottled it against Cork, and then Cork bottled it against Tipperary. So one of these teams will have rectified that come Sunday, and then the other team will still be bottlers in the Munster Championship.
And both of them will be gunning for you on Monday for one reason or another.
Yeah, true. I will say that Cork aren't necessarily bottlers if they lose to Kerry, but if Kerry lose again to Cork, obviously they've bottled it again, because this time it's at home. And obviously there might have been a little bit of pressure to move the game away from Killarney because of the fact that you could have got.
Should have moved it away. They should have.
The thing is, if they do lose and they didn't move it away from Killarney on Sunday, then the knives will be out.
But the double bottle, is it?
Correct.
I like this new post-vaccinated Owen Sheahan dropping the truth bombs, just spitting them out like a mediocre white rapper in the 90s.
I'm just feeling two things right now. The first thing, those truth bombs, I just want to spit. The second thing, I just want to change this Mac laptop for a Microsoft laptop. All of a sudden, I'm just feeling like Bill Gates all over my head for some reason. Like that. I can't explain why.
At 7:38 AM, you're very welcome along to OTB AM. We'd love to hear from you. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number. Or of course, you can leave a comment in the YouTube stream. We're going to get to your constructive criticism a little bit later on in the show. And a reminder, OTB AM is brought to you by Gillette. Good mornings start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. The first Test of the Lions series in South Africa is live and off the ball this Saturday with Brian O'Driscoll and Neil Tracy on commentary. Our Lions coverage is brought to you in association with Vodafone, lead partner of the British and Irish Lions. Owen's done a bit of digging ahead of that around Rassie Erasmus. It turns out the beef is real.
Well, I don't like him, and I don't have to work with people I don't like.
Patrick Vieira is 6'4", starts having a go at Gary Neville. He says, come and have a go at me.
You should have gone to Specsavers, Charlie.
Well, maybe you should go also then, Jeff, because you couldn't see driving home the other night.
Don't you ever talk about me!
So I think your arguments back and forward there, Tony. That's the point.
I'm wondering...
Just let me finish. Let me finish.
I'm gonna let you finish. It's pure constipated.
You can forget about Sean Kavanagh as far as he's a man.
If you're going to be critical, then you've got to make sure you've got something to back it up with, don't you?
Maybe the coaches were maybe panicking a little bit.
To me, you've got to have a little bit of a better record than that. The beef is real.
Okay, today on The Beef is Real, we're having a look at some of the tetchiness that has existed during this Lions tour. We're not saying that there's any all-out hatred or anything like that, but there has been tetchiness, I think it's fair to say. So what has existed here has been a little bit of tension between Rassie Erasmus and Warren Gatland. And if you go back through the story of these two main characters. There isn't a whole pile of history between them. If you go back to their match in the semi-finals of the 2019 Rugby World Cup, for example, we get a sense of true respect, really. It's kind of disappointing, actually, if you're looking for some beef. Warren is an absolute legend of the game. Erasmus said before that game, you very seldom see him in a mouthfight and mudslinging before test matches. I've never been there having to reply to something he says, and he doesn't bite at you to create unnecessary nonsense before a test match. So I've got a lot of respect for him as a person. His results speak for themselves with the Welsh team and the British and Irish Lions. But the thing that sort of makes these Lions tests great is that you play each other multiple times, and that familiarity, I guess, breeds a lot of contempt. And having basically a fourth test in the middle of it all, before it all, last week, was only going to stoke the flames, even if you see there that both men have a lot of respect for one another. So one of the things that came up last week was Rassie's suggestion that the South Africa A team play the Lions team a second time if that Stormers game were to be cancelled, which Warren Gatland didn't seem in the mood for. And our friends over at Wales Online helpfully did the maths in the post-match press conference after that game and said Erasmus used the terms scared and afraid 3 times after the match on Wednesday. Now, during that match, Rassie Erasmus was in and out of the pitch as the water boy, the Mayo Ishka, if you like, and Gatland was asked about that in his post-match press conference. Have a look at what he said.
It's a little bit interesting, yeah. So you won't see me doing that, but you know, sort of different strokes for different folks, I suppose. Yeah, a little bit strange. The director of rugby of South Africa being also a water boy.
Pretty jolly, I think you'll accept there. No real simmering tension there. But that was in the immediate aftermath of the game. It wasn't until a press conference the day afterwards that Gatland was asked about the scared comments, because those scared comments would have been made around the same time as that Gatland press conference we just witnessed there, and it naturally prompted us to tell him what he was really thinking about the whole Waterboy thing. So he said, I don't know, I think he was trying to wind us up, saying we were scared. Sometimes he's capable of doing that. Last night he was the water boy running on the pitch. If you're the water boy running onto the pitch, you got to make sure you're carrying water. I didn't understand what his role was. You don't run onto the pitch giving messages as the water boy without carrying water. My advice to him is to make sure he's carrying water next time he does that. Now, the water carrying thing does seem to be getting a bit of attention. It's in the papers again this morning, but in fairness to South Africa, it's nothing especially new. Jacques Nienaber carried water at times during the 2019 World Cup, so it's not unusual for a high-ranking member of the coaching staff to be fulfilling the role. However, Gatland did point out in his quotes yesterday that Nienaber is qualified as a physio and was doing it in the guise of a physio. But after the Georgia game a few weeks ago, Nienaber said it was nice for me in terms of being able to chat with Rassie and him giving me feedback from the players and running water on the side. So Rassie was obviously doing it for the Georgia game as well. Hats off to him for wanting to do that. Myself and Rassie always work a little bit out of the box. Obviously, I can't be on the side of the field, so hopefully he makes himself available for the next game as well. And Nienaber tested positive for COVID. Wouldn't be at the next game, but it does seem that regardless of his presence, he wants Rassie running the water during the game. Anyway, the main point of contention from that South Africa A game would turn out to not be the running of the water, but it was the collision between Faf de Klerk and Josh Navidi and the referee's decision that there was no head-to-head contact. And in the aftermath of that, Warren Gatland said, I can't understand where the comments were that there was no contact to the head. Someone was watching a different picture to me. I thought it looked reckless. The Irish Examiner then reported these quotes, like every other outlet covering the Lions, but they would have been surprised to see at Rassie Erasmus appear in their mentions. He tweeted them a video of Owen Farrell going high on Faf de Klerk, and he said, if there is time, maybe also get clarity and alignment on this one, please. I know it's way after the whistle, but let's just align and get clarity to be sure. Rassie Erasmus and Owen Farrell then, together in the headlines. So if this beef and if this simmering tension was all about Gatland and Erasmus, and maybe actually a little bit of love deep down for one another, we can't exactly say that about Gatland and Farrell, because if you dig back, or Erasmus and Farrell I should say, because if you dig back into their history, it's not the sort of lovey-dovey stuff we got there from 2019 between the two coaches. Because you might remember that in November 2018, England were leading the Springboks 12 points to 11, 80 minutes gone, clock in the red, and then this happened, as you can see on screen. Owen Farrell went in on Andre Esterhuizen in possession of the ball. South Africa going for a penalty to win the game, and it was not given as a penalty. He gets nailed by Owen Farrell. The referee, happy to blow up the game after checking with the cameras, says there was no evidence that Farrell didn't make an attempt to wrap into tackle. And then in the aftermath of the game,
what was it most about that Owen Farrell tackle that upset you? Was it the height of the tackle, or was it the
Wrapped the arm or not?
No, nothing upset me. If it was legal, we just have to latch on and do it the same, man. Nothing irritated me. If it was legal, we should just do it because it's very effective. And you know, you can't let, you know, obviously to tackle a guy like Andre Esterhazy and like that and stop him in his track, that's unbelievable. So we'll just have to try and practice that.
Sense of a bit of sarcasm there, is that correct?
No, not at all. Not at all. No, I just really think it's really effective, man.
Now, after that, let's have a look at the Springboks training session a few days later. So what we have here is we have Esterhazy, Nina Aber, and Rassie Erasmus. Here he is telling him how to tackle. Got a tackle bag there for any of our radio listeners, and he's going in, goes nice and low on it, wraps the arm. Rassie's not happy. Rassie stands the bag back up, tells him to go back. Nina Aber is showing where to hit. A bit higher, I think they're trying to suggest. He goes again. Oh, great technique. A little bit higher, but it looks like they're unhappy.
No. Come on, boy. Come on. Hit him in his tits. That's what they're saying.
Hit him in his tits, and they're asking him to go back again. They put the ball back up, the bag back up.
Oh!
And Erasmus applauds him.
Oh! Wow, that's WWE.
He walks away.
Esterhazy gives the game away, though, doesn't he? Because he's laughing there. And funny enough, this bit is filmed. Two lads are like, oh, it's surreptitiously filmed.
It's almost as if Rassie Erasmus is a genius who knows exactly how to send a message in every specific way. And I think that is hammered home by Erasmus's Twitter account, as we've already mentioned. But it's worth bearing in mind that Rassie Erasmus has tweeted 26 times. Most of us have tweeted thousands and thousands of times. And
he's only tweeted 26 times in his entire life.
Yeah, and we will be lucky to have 26 good tweets out of our thousands and thousands of tweets. The thing with Rassie Erasmus is that every single one of his 26 tweets is a brilliant one. Here he is in reply to Rugby Pass, just a while ago, a Rugby Pass article talking about the Springboks era of rugby, proven to the world that they are anything but a good side, that they haven't proven to the world that they are anything but a good side. He won the World Cup with a helpful schedule, and Erasmus said, "This always made sense to me. A lion doesn't concern himself with the opinion of a sheep." And then there was this from earlier last year, and he says, 12th of November 2017, "This is why we must work so hard. This is how quickly things can change." Yes, Rassie Erasmus using Brent Pope as a motivational tool. May not have been a sentence you were expecting to hear this morning, but it's true. And we may as well have a look at what Brent Pope said that night.
Ireland can only do play what's in front of them. Discipline has been very good. They've been very clinical when they're changed it. The South Africa just look a team that's rudderless completely. It's a case of the forwards aren't playing the same game the backs are. It seems to be just play the ball to the backs, kick it anywhere, just for the sake of it. They kick chase. They've no kick chase. Defensively, they're poor. I don't really see there's any way back. In a sense, you're looking at long term. Unless they change this, there's no way back for South African rugby because they can't rely on that physicality anymore. The backs have nothing creative in their locker. They just look, this could be a 30-point. We asked about how the All Blacks beat South Africa by 57 points. Yeah. You can see how they did it now.
It's just... It makes my heart warm to think that that's the moment that kick-started a generation of Springboks that won the World Cup. But that is it. That is a little bit of a background to what is a simmering beef. There's 3 pretty testy encounters coming up over the next 3 weeks. I'm sure the beef will get even realer, but for this week, that is the current edition of The Beef is Real.
Well, I don't like him, and I don't have to work with people I don't like.
Patrick Vieira is 6'4", so I was having a go at Gary Neville. He says, come and have a go at me.
You should have gone to Specsavers, Charlie.
Well, maybe you should go also then, Jeff, because you couldn't see driving home the other night.
Don't you ever talk about me!
So I think your arguments back and forward there, Tony. That's the point.
I'm wondering...
Just let me finish. Let me finish.
I'm let you finish.
It's pure constipated.
You can forget about Sean Kavanagh as far as he's a man.
If you're going to be critical, then you've got to make sure you've got something to back it up with, don't you?
Maybe the coaches were maybe panicking a little bit.
To me, you've got to have a little bit of a better record than that. The beef is real.
All right, you can give us your reaction to that in the YouTube comments, or indeed, of course, as ever, you can text the show 087 085 7180 180 087 5180 180. I can't even remember the text one. It's been one of those weeks.
I can't remember either, to be honest.
0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number if you want to get in touch with us this morning. It's 7:50. Brian Dillon on YouTube says Owen should lose his desk privileges any time he pulls a sickie. It's not called the bowl corner for nothing.
I agree. I take very little pity on people who take sick days, so I've kind of disappointed myself there.
You like the desk though?
I like the desk. I feel way more protected.
It's our Olympic special desk. Every day at 5 o'clock we're going to have a brand new Olympic show for you, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And it turns out, we were just talking about this a little bit earlier on, that the breakfast show is the perfect Olympics accompaniment for you, because we'll be waking up reacting to what's happened overnight when you were like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Let's face it, you're really probably unlikely to set your alarm. So we'll be able to filter that for you and preview what's coming up a little bit later on, because there's nothing happening in the afternoons. They've kind of weirdly decided that, I presume this is for American TV, is it?
Yeah, like, or else it's just, so I've been kind of like looking at the Irish schedule over the last little while, and it does seem that, like, while we're on air, there's only a handful of things that are on. It just seems that if you want to be up for any hour during the Olympics, it's between 3 and 4 a.m. basically, and all that stuff is happening at that point, and then it goes on a bit of a lull, and then from 11 until 1, a nice amount again. And I think it's because it just for the first couple of weeks there's just loads of swimming, and they have a morning session and they have an evening session, and I think that's probably what I'm looking at here. But like, obviously a lot of the rowing will be on in the morning time. Pretty much all the rowing is on in the morning time, so from an Ireland medal perspective, a lot of our hopes are going to come in the dead hours of the night. So you got to pick your moments. There will hopefully be a couple of finals to get up for at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, but are you going to be hardcore enough to get up at 1:40 tomorrow morning for Sneed Puspur's heat, or at 2:40 for Philip Doyle and Ronan Burns' heat? That is up to you, I guess.
I think a lot of people are going to be saying, come back to me when you're in the final, right?
I think so, because it's just such an expectation as well around these rowers. But God, people, I'm trying to think, if you're in the United States, you'd be in a pretty good place to watch those rowers late at night your time.
That's exactly, I think, why those times exist. Right, here's what's going up between now and 10 a.m. on the show. We've already done the Beef is Real for you this morning. We've got constructive criticism coming your way / our way in just a moment. Gordon Darcy is going to join us. He's doing a cycle for Barrettstown at 8:10. He's also going to help us preview the first test for the Lions series. Our sports pages run through at 8:30. David Brady is going to join us. We'll also be talking about the Football Pod episode this week with Tommy and Aisling Riley, and also previewing the weekend's Gaelic football action too. And BOD meets Henry, as Brian O'Driscoll meets Henry Shefflin at 9:15. What happened when two of our greatest ever sports people hung out and played a bit of golf together? We'll let you know exactly at 9:15 this morning. But right now, OTB AM, we're trawling through your constructive criticism from the past week.
The tag of being a little bit out there because of the social media sort of thing.
I haven't had that proper chance to understand what the rationale was.
Don't give me none of that banter, man. I'm here to talk serious football.
Good morning. The headlines. Irish shock jock Gerard Gilroy has come under further fire from another supporters group this week following brash remarks on sports breakfast programme OTB AM. After England support groups mounted pressure on Mr Gilroy last week, South African rugby fans have this week revealed that they too feel personally victimised by this particular broadcast host. In response to broadcasted talks between Mr Gilroy and Keith Wood about the challenges facing this British and Irish Lions tour to South Africa, YouTube commentator Stuart Cryer weighed in on the subject. He said, Keith Wood's commentary is impartial and insightful, not attempting to make assertions on topics he doesn't fully understand, but offers meaningful opinions and analysis. The main interviewer, however, is quite clearly biased and bitter. Every utterance is tainted and misinformed. Although the political situation within South Africa, my country, is grim and saddening, it is not helped by a man making aspersions about the future of the British and Irish Lions tour from a point of very little understanding. We as South Africans need not your disdain for our rugby style, nor your belittling attitude towards our complicated and nuanced cultural / political issues. Pelican Pants, meanwhile, stated, Ger hates the box and is still salty about them winning the Rugby World Cup. This makes for a poor presenter. In contrast, Keith Wood gives an excellent unbiased analysis, very astute, and high rugby IQ. A statement was also quickly forthcoming from Hooper, who issued the following question. Ger, what is your problem with South Africa? Honestly, every time there is a discussion re South African rugby, you without fail inject some form of obscure negativity into the conversation. I'm surprised this convo didn't evolve into another discussion about systemic doping in South African rugby.
I missed it. I should have.
At least Keith Wood was there to provide some actual thoughtful analysis.
I can't believe I forgot to play the hits.
You forgot to play the hits. Our lads, though, got to the nub of the issue later, saying he thinks they're a bunch of meatheads, the Joe Rogan of rugby. Hooper is not some blow-in to YouTube comments, however. In the aftermath of the World Cup final, Hooper then too outlined his displeasure at the broadcasting display from the Joe Rogan of rugby. I can't believe my ears. What utter disrespect and negativity following what was a deserved end to a fantastic tournament. I'm speaking specifically remarks made by Gilroy. Shame on you. Alan and Louise actually had some good analysis of the final. Craig Wiedemann concurred. He stated, Alan is usually great. Disappointed that he's allowed himself to be associated with those other two clowns, Ger and Owen. There was an outbreak of pedantry back in the Keith Wood comments, however. Toby Hart said, Keith Woods is my favourite British and Irish analyst. He brings a non-partisan and balanced perspective to the table, not anti-box, very fair and level-headed, and understands the pack nuances way better than others. Harrison Cray, however, launched an angry riposte. Hi Toby, you can say that. Keith Woods is your favourite British and Irish Lions analyst, or that he is your favourite Irish analyst. He cannot be a British and Irish analyst because he is Irish and he is not British. It is confusing for many non-native speakers, but important to get right, nonetheless. However, South African rugby YouTube correspondent Hooper was quick on the scene, saying, at Harrison Cray, he's analysing the British and Irish Lions, is he not? As such, he's a British and Irish rugby analyst. Nice try, loser. Elsewhere in the Keith Wood comments...
So hang on. Hooper is calling for nuance when it comes to the what was it? Confusing? What was his sophisticated? What was his reference to the difficulty that South Africa cultural history has, but like is willing to show none to anybody else?
Well, exactly.
I'm not calling rank hypocrisy, apart from saying that it's rank hypocrisy.
Elsewhere in the Keith Wood comments, Dion took issue with both hosts, saying, these are the same two guys who predicted a blowout against Wales in the Six Nations. And no more living in fear raised eyebrows when he commented, by the way, we are listening to people who brought Brexit upon themselves. Stupids. In other news, there were further stinging critiques of other OTB.
Hang on. He's talking about the Welsh, right?
No, he's talking about us. In other news, there were further stinging critiques of other OTB presenters in the last week. On last week's crappy quiz, Mr. Hungry Eyes delivered his review of Nathan Murphy's broadcasting capabilities. He said, Nathan really is insufferable. Tommy McGuinty weighed in on the discussion by saying, Pat Kenny wannabe. And he concluded his thoughts by saying, and bless Owen, but I think he'd struggle bringing bottled water onto the pitch. Lastly, on last week's Constructive Criticism video, YouTuber Ush Bosch stated, that boy Owen could do with a new voice. The statement is said to come as a particularly hurtful one to that boy Owen, who is known to be a long-time follower of DJ Ush Bosch. Some of his favourite Ush Bosch YouTube uploads include Ush Bosch live at Skullvera Buncrana Formal 2020 and Nathan Carter Wagon Wheel Ush Bosch Dance Remix. They say to never meet your heroes because chances are they have abused you in your own YouTube comments. Those are the headlines for this week. Thank you for joining us.
The tag of being a little bit out there because of the social media sort of thing.
I haven't had that proper chance to understand what the rationale was.
Don't give me none of that banter, man. I'm here to talk serious football.
Right, some of the other comments that are coming in at the moment. Walter says, it's incredible how parochial this show is. Rather than discuss the best BIL team, British Irish Lions team, they fall back on making the case for Irish players. Are we bad Lions, Owen? Do we just follow the tour in a way that's different to English fans? As an Irish fan, is it hard to watch the English-style coverage of the team and the pomp surrounding the Lions? Is there anything that, sticks in our craw about the British and Irish Lions?
We're just different, aren't we? It's like everybody's got a different prism for the British and Irish Lions experience. I guess ours is. I think they're probably onto something. I definitely think that is a huge part of the build-up. Not necessarily what the makeup of the squad will be, but specifically how many Irish players are going to be in the squad.
Yeah, duh. Duh. We're interested in the things we're interested in because it's our players. Duh. What? Am I missing this?
There's like there's nothing wrong with that. Just because somebody pointed it out angrily in the YouTube comments doesn't necessarily make it wrong.
Dan says, did I hear the interviewer right? He wonders what the value of the Lions is these days. That's the stupidest opinion I've ever heard. The Lions are brilliant, great entertainment, and the rugby pinnacle for the home nations, players and fans. Don't know what planet that Irish lad is on.
This was you the other day in conversation with Matt Williams.
Yeah, I was making the point that there was a tweet doing the rounds that showed the amazing try that France scored that went the length of the field against Australia, pointing out that France are really benefiting from the fact that they have the opportunity to pick a team and go and travel and go on tour and bed things down. And I was like, I definitely see the benefit of that. But equally, I can see the benefit of our players going and stealing ideas from some of the best coaches. I just hope we don't get drawn into a draining forwards mauling contest as the same, Dan, and use possession to create some magic in midfield. In all but the South Africa A game, we've been able to open them up by going wide with some smart handling and running lines. Let's hope South Africa don't smash us in every tackle and we stay committed to a bold attacking game winning possession. Just don't hold on to it long in the forwards and try to maul and ruck our way to the line, because that'll be a losing battle. And Russell says, so you moan about Schmidt for 2 or 3 years, relying on people who've done it for him in the past and how he should be going at new blood. Foreign players, and now you reckon Gatland should be selecting Murray because he was good 4 years ago, and Sexton should play for the Lions, but not Ireland because, lads, he's ancient now. Come on, we need to move on. Maybe you should pick a lane and try staying in it. Stay in your lane.
And I do think that that's different. That is quite different. Like, nobody... The conversation on Conor Murray came from the place that Conor Murray was selected by Warren Gatland to be the tour captain for this year.
Yes.
It is not based... This is based on Warren Gatland seeing something in him and the suspicion that maybe he would have gone with the guy who he thought might have been his tour captain in the absence of Alan Jones.
Yeah. Yeah, so all of that was... And also, you have to say that Sexton, as a 15 to 20 minute player coming off the bench, is more than likely better than the kid who's played one international game and, like, you know, has some experience of what the pressure might be like in the second test when this might be required, or the third test when it might be required. In Soccer, Martin says, what's going on in Liverpool is getting beyond a joke. I'm a big Liverpool fan, but these owners are so tight when it comes to money and spending. We will be left behind the pack if they don't step up, and they will lose Klopp also. Will Klopp go if Jordan Henderson doesn't get the new deal he requires? Or will they just make Henderson play out this year, and then actually, by not giving him a massive new contract, do they, in a weird way, allow him to go free the following season? So bear in mind, it's 2 years before, it's 18 months before you'll be able to negotiate a pre-contract agreement with Paris Saint-Germain or Real Madrid or Juventus or Inter or somebody else who will actually give him another massive life-changing contract. I don't know. Is it a disaster?
Well, I think if Jurgen Klopp is questioning his future at the club, it's a disaster. And if you're pushing people out the door in a way you don't want to do, it is an absolute disaster for Liverpool. And like, obviously what we've seen here is that he didn't necessarily want Wijnaldum to go over the course of the summer. You have two Wijnaldum situations, all of a sudden you got a bit of a problem. I think anybody can be forgiven for letting a player go in these circumstances, but if the manager wants to keep these players and all of a sudden they're leaving...
Well, the only thing is that so Henderson's a year older than Wijnaldum, and they let Wijnaldum go because they felt like paying him the money for the next 3 seasons might not be the best use of that resources. You always want to be a season early rather than a season late with paying players, was one of Bill Walsh from the San Francisco 49ers. That was one of his maxims. Let them go a year early rather than a year late, because that means you're not clogging up the opportunity for somebody else. You're not paying twice for what wasn't actually worth it in that place. How do you're saying it's a different case for Henderson because he's the captain and the leadership is important? Bear in mind, he's starting to pick up some injuries.
Is there a case to be made that in football you can do a throw money at a problem move more easily than you can in the NFL without a salary cap, for example, and you can say, well, just in case this guy turns out to be absolutely evergreen and goes on until 35 being an exceptional on-pitch leader, and then we may as well just keep everybody sweet here, because, like, unless what Henderson is asking for is extraordinary and he is looking for a proper pay increase, then maybe not. Now, the thing is, he may not be looking for an increase at all. He may be looking for similar wages, just an extension to the contract. Maybe Liverpool don't see him going beyond the current deal, especially in and around those wages, given Liverpool aren't going to be able to... Like, Liverpool aren't paying extraordinary money to that sort of player at the moment. They aren't a Manchester City who do that on the regular. So, or Manchester United probably more to the point. So you can see where they're coming from if Henderson is looking for that sort of thing. But at the same time, your best asset is Jurgen Klopp. There's no getting away from that. And if Jurgen Klopp asks for something and he believes that this guy should be given a new contract, I think you kind of bow to your manager.
Yeah, so we'll see if that power structure or power struggle actually exists. New Holland, I'm not sure if we're missing an N, says, fluky or bizarre season for Man United to win the league. What is Gilroy smoking? This could be our team next season. Hendo, Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Maguire, Shaw, McTominay, Pogba, Rashford, Bruno, Sancho, Cavani. We should be expected to challenge for the title with this team. If we don't, it's a failure. We could also sign an additional midfielder and maybe Trippier too. I mean, you could sign an additional midfielder. You could sign Trippier and maybe the Varane deal gets done. But as it stands, that's not your team. And is Cavani going to play every minute of every league game? Is Jadon Sancho guaranteed to be a success immediately? Is Bruno's form going to come back straight away? Where's Rashford playing in that team? So your midfield is McTominay, Pogba and Bruno. Is it? Is that going to be great in all those big games? I'm not sure.
I'm a big fan of these. This is what our team is going to look like things. Like I saw one on Twitter yesterday and it was like Aston Villa's attack next year, Emi Buendia, Jack Grealish and Leon Bailey. And I'm like, what? I'm like, God, I mean, the vaccine has clearly knocked a lot of brain cells out of my head immediately. I'm like, the Leon Bailey to Aston Villa transfer is something that I completely missed. And then I Googled it and it was like, Aston Villa transfer latest, Bayer Leverkusen's Leon Bailey wanted by villains. So if you're saying that you're putting a player into your team because they're wanted by the club, then you can't have Jack Grealish in that lineup because he's wanted by Manchester City. So you've got to change the way you're looking at it. Now, in fairness to Manchester United, it's a bit of a different situation. None of those players are likely to leave the club at that point.
Pogba might. I think there's a reasonable 50-50 chance.
Good point, actually. Pogba's perfect example.
Rashford's probably not going to play before October.
Yeah, not going to play before October.
If he gets the surgery, I think that has to all be sorted out just yet. Yeah, it's like let's just cool the jets. Let's just cool the jets. I think that this Manchester United team to go toe to toe with both Liverpool and City and potentially Chelsea, or maybe it's with both Chelsea and City and potentially Liverpool. Let's wait and see. Hurling chat. Sean says James Skell is a brilliant addition to OTB. His analysis and general commentary on hurling are excellent. I think there's uniform consensus about this. We've never had consensus about anything that's ever happened apart from maybe Tommy Walsh before. And this is it. It's like James Skell is a brilliant addition to OTB. His analysis and general commentary on hurling are excellent. If you missed yesterday, we did 35 minutes and we covered a load of ground. And we also planted the seed for more ground to come back and cover in future editions of the show as well. So it's going to be a fixture for the rest of the hurling season and hopefully beyond that too.
Yeah, he's great. He's just unbelievably passionate and knowledgeable about the game, and just has a really natural opinion on everything.
And right so far about almost everything. Yeah. It's like, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. You're like, okay, that did happen, that did happen, that did happen. Wow, that's that record's pretty good so far. And then Thomas in the power ranking says, Kildare beating Meath in a big league promotion game last time out and still in the championship. Madness Kildare not being ahead of them. Madness, I tell you.
Do you concur?
Madness, I tell you. I think Kildare are ahead of Meath. What can I say? I mean, if it's a 7-point defeat for Kildare against Dublin in the Leinster final in 2 weeks' time, or anything bigger than 6 points, are you going to go, I told you? Or are you actually going to go, well, when those two teams last played in the big game, it was really important. Ultimately, Division 1 football is all that matters for those teams who are trying to latch on somewhere to the coattails of this Dublin side.
And they did
it without Daniel Flynn, by the way.
They did do that without Daniel Flynn. It obviously depends on the magnitude of the defeat. If it's a completely different showing than the one Meath put up against Dublin, then obviously you take that into account. But yeah, maybe there was a case we made that Kildare were in a better place than Meath. I do think that Meath were
first little crack in the power rankings armoury is here, where you've admitted you were wrong. Yeah, apology accepted. The County of Kildare accepts your humble apology, and in the spirit of openness and transparency, we have a Kerry manager. You're from Kerry. We should extend the law of whatever the Irish phrase for hand of friendship is.
Yeah, law of Carja.
You're accepting it. Kildare ahead of Meath. You're correcting midweek.
No,
midweek you're correcting the power rankings.
I'm just saying that I'm just tickling the belly of all our Kildare Lilywhites this morning. It's there's a case to be made, of course. I can see why you would comment that, and I can see why you would take the time out of your day to scroll down to the YouTube comments and type that in and click send. I can see why you did that, but I just don't particularly agree with that, and I wouldn't take that to its nth to the end degree that, and that wouldn't put them ahead of me just yet.
9 minutes past 8 this morning here on OTB AM. This Thursday morning, very busy show between now and 10 a.m. We stuck two of Ireland's greatest sports people together a few weeks back, sent them to Mount Juliet. The sun shined. It was a round of golf. We're going to bring you BOD meets Henry after 9 a.m. Plenty of Gaelic football still to come. David Brady joins us up next. We're talking rugby and the Lions with Gordon Darcy.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
The Football Pod with Paddy and Andy, our new weekly Gaelic football show with Paddy Andrews and Andy Moran.
If you're over 30 in a club game, lads just leave. Lads half your age hitting the digs. Those lads are out partying in St. William Street later that night. I'm going home to have an ice bath. You know what I mean?
We were playing Belmullet, you know, there was a young guy on it that was on the under 20s last year. He was in for trials and stuff. Great lad. And he turned it up to me halfway through the game because you're too old. I was like...
He was backing you. You're his coach. Tell me you dropped him. That guy should never play again.
Download the OTB Sports app and subscribe to the GAA podcast feed now.
Sean, what's that thing going round the garden?
That is our new Husqvarna Automower.
Automower?
Yeah, it's a robotic lawnmower from Husqvarna. Cuts the grass automatically, has GPS tracking and an app. Even works in the rain. I just thought, why spend time cutting grass when I could spend it with the family?
Great! You can put the dinner on, so...
No can do, love. Have to paint the man cave.
Husqvarna Automower. Never mow again. Learn more at husqvarna.ie.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
So the first test in the Lions series is essentially upon us. We know both teams. We know how South Africa are going to line out. We know how the Lions team are going to line out. The leaked team was actually correct, and it was good news for some Irish players and bad news for some other. So we're going to get stuck into that now. If you have a view on this or the Lions and you want to get involved, 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number. Or, of course, as ever, you can leave a comment on the YouTube stream. Last Friday, Gordon Darcy joined us here on OTB AM to talk about the Lions, but also to launch his 850-kilometre cycle across 4 days in aid of Barrettstown. To donate, you can go to justgiving.com/campaign/Tour de Provinces. We'll tweet the link from the Off the Ball account right now, Tour de Provence. Do share your support as well. The first leg of the cycle was yesterday. Gordon Darcy, good morning to you. How are the legs?
Good morning. Yeah, they're a little bit sore. I got a cramp at about 3 a.m. last night that I haven't gotten since I played like a big test match against England or Springboks or something like that. And it like literally hopped me out of the bed and I was up against the wall, lasted for about 30 seconds and nearly had me in tears. So it's been interesting. I think when I was cycling up a hill somewhere in Ennis and there was no shade, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it was 30 degrees, I was really questioning my life choices at that point.
How far did you do yesterday?
Did 250.
Wow, okay.
Kilometres. And we have 50k in the bag today, so we're just on the way to Galways now. So we're just out around the corner from Galways, where a really, really interesting little thing is happening. The president, Eric Dunn, is actually making one of the under-14s president for the day. So he's going to greet me and bring me in and cycle in with me and do all the presidential duties for the day in Galways.
That's cool.
It is very cool. It's one of the coolest things I've heard. And then we're on to Craig's in Roscommon, where there's an army of kids there waiting to say hello.
Have you gone right back into competitor mode over the last little while, Gordon?
Yes. So, yeah, some pretty, I was cramping going up a hill yesterday and there was every reason to get off and, stop and everything. So that real mental aspect I was hoping was going to come around day 3 came 2 days early. So it's been fun. And I couldn't sleep last night. I'd say I had 3 hours sleep last night, got up at 5 and we were, my brother is borderline my Sherpa at the moment. He's been amazing. He seems to know exactly when I need water, when I need food, when I need anything. So it's been, the competitive piece is there, but I think there's harder slogs ahead. I'm trying to stick my head in the sand on that.
Have you been doing triathlons and all that kind of stuff since you retired? Have you got into any of the...
No. This is the first thing I've done in a competitive sense. So I've gone to the gym a little bit, but I had really bad shoulder pain issues when I finished. So I had to have 2 shoulder operations over the last kind of 4 years. So this is actually the first time I've been fully fit. I play a little bit of vets tag with Lansdowne, but this is the first time I've physically pushed myself, and it feels good. So you kind of enjoy the pain a little bit, and then you regret it, and then you kind of crave it, and you keep going. So when you're in it yesterday, you're just there going, it's really, really tough, and you get through it. But then when you get through it, there's that little bit of, yeah, I did that, got through it, and you kind of push yourself to get through the next day. So 250k today, we've done 50, so 4 more blocks of 50, and we'll be all right.
It's for a brilliant cause, and as I said, Tour de Provinces is
really is.
That's the Just Giving account, and as I said, we'll tweet the link as well. Talk to us a little bit. Talk to us a little bit about the Lions team that was named. The leak came out, and everybody assumed, oh, this is a leak, or it's one of those WhatsApp things that goes around. But then it actually turned out to be 100% correct. What's your instinct on the team that he's picked in terms of how they're actually trying to play? Is it stereotypical Warren ball that we should expect from the Lions this week, or do they have something up their sleeves?
Nah, they haven't picked a squad for that. Like, I was listening to Ronan on off the ball last night. I think he made some really good points. I would have started Connor as well, but I think when I had nothing else to think about on the road last night, I did think about this. Why have they picked Ali Price, and why have they picked Jack Conan, and why have they picked Hogg? They picked these guys and bigger. They picked them to play at pace and to play at tempo. So it didn't work with the approach they took into that Ireland A game or the South African A game. And it doesn't mean they throw everything out from that. There was some really good aspects of defence and pieces into it. But I think they're looking to play a tempo from the word go, and I think they've said they wanted to start better than Springboks. So a conservative approach is probably not pragmatic against these guys. So if you're looking at Ali Price, you're looking at him going, he's picked on form, which is, sometimes you just have to do that in a squad, because maybe players are looking around going, well, listen, he's clearly playing on form, so he deserves the shot, and you kind of have to get that. It's a really double-edged sword from a coach's perspective, because if he goes well, it validates the whole thing and it's great energy from it. But if he goes into himself, it's he doubles down. So I think they've picked Price, Conan, mobile back rows, Curry to play at pace with them, and rather than trying to change the tempo with having, say, Price and Hogg on the bench, say, we're looking to win the game in the first 60 and then see it out in the last 20, rather than, if we're losing with 20 minutes to go, we unload the bench, which is out of what we would associate with Warren Gatland. He likes to keep players on the field for most of the game. So I genuinely think they've gone to go, we're going to throw caution to the wind in a certain aspect, and they're going to go after it with pace and try and score tries.
Couple of interesting points from the Warren Gatland press conference yesterday, Gordon. He said that going back to the South Africa A game last week, in a couple of the scrums towards the end, we felt we really dominated. I think they'll come with a harder approach. It's one aspect where I think we dented their ego, as they didn't have the dominance in the areas they would have liked. Is that the case? Do you think that the Springbok ego has been dented by the end of that South Africa A game?
I think when we reflect back on this tour, the Erasmus Gatland tete-a-tete is going to be fantastic, and we'll see who comes out on top. And I think you guys mentioned this before, that Gatland is used to not having a coach sparring with them. He's used to these people just accepting it and going, oh, we'll do our talking on the pitch. And Erasmus is very much coming back into it. So I think what we have with the Lions is we have Tadhg Furlong in the best tight head prop in the world, playing some of the best rugby that he's been playing, particularly in the set piece. And I think that goes an awful long way, because Paul Wallace is a really good friend of mine, and he just talked about how instrumental the set piece is on the psychological battle between forwards. And if you can get parity, even a step forward against the Springboks, whose game plan is around physicality. And again, we're talking about that the packs are more or less up front. So if you can meet the Springboks, like Courtney Laws is going to be really, really important in all this. So if you can, and Alvin Jones and Tighe, those kind of players, if they can meet the physicality for the first 50, 60 minutes, and as the Springboks start flagging, because those big men do not like playing in tempo, and you have Hamish Watson, Ty Byrne coming on, Liam Williams to come on, like these guys can really change it. But I think you've got to be able to absorb an awful lot of pressure, but you've got to be able to push back against these guys at certain points. And if that is in the last 30 minutes, she's great, you'll take it. If you take parity for 50 minutes and then the last 30 you start to get a massive upper hand when they're beginning to flag, you take that any day of the week.
Gatland was also saying that they had a bit of bone on bone yesterday. That's how he described the training session from 2 days ago. Is there anything you can do in training to prepare yourself for that first hit from a test Springbok?
Nah, like the first hit is, it's in your head from Monday, and while and there's still a throwback to the old way of training with a lot of these in the squad, particularly from Alwyn Jones, and I think a captain would probably feel a little bit of that and go, listen, we just need a bit of bite in training, and you run the risk with that, and that is it's always a calculated risk. But they obviously said they wanted it, so they went in and did it and got into it. That just sharpens the focus. But those hits, it's all up here. How ready are you for this confrontation, and how ready are you for the battle? And you probably see an insight into that. And Ronan talked a really great point, that say you'd love to be in the camp to see what that bone on bone looked like. Tom Curry, who's he getting into from the other side? Toby Faletau, players like that. What are they doing? I think it is really, it's definitely is useful, and it definitely plays a role. You're sitting there, I'd say, as a coach, fingers crossed, going, please somebody don't get injured.
The traditional view here of Warren Gatland picking these Lions teams in the past was that he was biased towards the Welsh side, that he was also at the same time the coach of, and maybe he was back then, but now that he's free from the shackles of being the Welsh coach, the outrage in Wales about the fact that Faletau's not on the team, that they don't have the winger as well, it's like they begin to see a little bit about how we used to feel about it. It kind of just reveals that Gatland is the most ruthless of them all, right?
Yeah, but like, I think ruthless is the wrong word. I think it's a guy who's picking a team to win, and there's a huge hindsight bias on all of this. When you look back and you go, we look at when John Davies got picked for the final test, and you can argue Brian would have done everything that John Davies would have done, but because they won the test match in Australia, he gets the big tick, and his selections, they're not just 50-50. He's got that. And Declan Kidney was a guy who had that ability to pick the right players for the right battle. I think the squad he picked it's a very condensed squad, and I think he did try to play an awful lot of players into form, Connor being one of them, and Toby Faletau was definitely one of them, and I just don't think it worked. So he got to a certain point and went, here's the guy, Jack Conan, he's playing well, he's playing on the front, he's doing what I want him to do. Toby's my guy, but he's just not there yet. I can't risk it, and that's what you want from a coach. My worry with the winger piece is I think Duhan van der Merwe is going to go missing in big matches, and I'm not sure he's there for. I would have had Zamet or sorry, my brain is gone there. Or
Elliot
Josh
Daly.
Adams.
Okay, or Elliot Daly on the wing, like.
No, I like as the thing has gone along. At some stage last week, I went definitely Henshaw and Daly.
Right.
What Daly gives you at 13 is, so Harris, I think we talked about this last week, if Harris's passing was a little bit more accurate, I think he could have been in there, but it's that attention to detail. Like, in centre, one of the, particularly at 13, that ability to distribute, sharp, quick, get the ball away in one step accurately is so valuable at this level, and Daly does that time and time again. But Harris is a much more all-rounded 13, but his passing game lets him down. If he had, say, Daly's, ifs and ands, if he had Daly's passing skill, he probably would have started. But I think Daly, he offers way more. He offers much more distribution and just just a little bit of rugby IQ in that 13 slot.
All right, tell me who's going to win.
I think I was an awful lot more confident until I listened to Ronan last night. And I think all the points he made, the lack of game time, everything like that, there's an awful lot of reasons that the Lions can win, but they need an awful lot to go right. So I don't see more than 3 to 5 points either way. My heart says the Lions, but my head says South Africa.
All right, Gordon, so where exactly are you in the country? You're outside Ennis, 50 kilometres?
No, I just come through the burn. So
right.
I was really hoping I was going to get through the burn before I had to take this call, because I was some ponies and some brick walls were pretty much the only thing there. There wasn't a cell phone tower for a couple of miles. So we're just about 15k outside of Galway. We're going to make a quick hop into Galway and then on to Craig's in Roscommon. And
if anybody wants to donate, as I said, it's for a great cause. They can check out your Twitter, and we've just tweeted the link as well. It's justgiving.com/campaign/Tour de Provinces. Best of luck, Gordon. Thanks a million for joining us. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
That's On Your Bike Gordon hashtag as well. You can get it on Twitter if you need more details on that. But it is all in aid of Barrettstown, 850 kilometres in 4 days. How far did you, what was the most you've ever done in a cycle?
Cumulative over 4 years. Might have got to the 850.
Just to remind you, of course, as well, as part of the 9 matches that we're broadcasting from the British and Irish Lions tour of South Africa on Off the Ball, we're bringing you live commentary of Saturday's test against the Springboks. Our Lions coverage is brought to you in association with Vodafone, lead partner of the British and Irish Lions. It's Brian O'Driscoll, former Lions captain, alongside Neil Tracy in the commentary booth this weekend for OTB. Kick-off is at 5 o'clock. There'll be pre-match and post-match, and indeed, as Gordon Darcy was talking about there, Ronan O'Gara was on last night, and you can hear him talking to Richie on the OTB Sports app. Just search in the podcast feed, search OTB Rugby and subscribe to that. And anytime we're covering rugby, if you turn your notifications on, you'll get Ronan O'Gara and Brian O'Driscoll and Alan Quinlan and Keith Wood and everything else that we do on the show as well. 27 minutes past 8 this morning. We'd love to hear from you. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number. And of course, many of you are leaving comments on the YouTube stream, and I'm sure some of the people that we were talking about on the YouTube stream a little bit earlier will be back in touch just to let us know how happy you were to get the shout out, because that's the point of that, right? Let's run you through the sports pages this morning. OTBsports.com. We can start with that one. Fabian Delph furious with Everton's handling of suspended player. So Fabian Delph was one of those people incorrectly identified on social media. If you could take that back up, Jojo, for a second, I'll do the other ones. So ex-Liverpool player doesn't hold back in criticism of Rafa Benitez. I'd back Ireland to beat South Africa ahead of the Lions, says Ronan O'Gara on the first test. Tokyo 2020 social media teams told not to show athletes taking the knee, and Naomi Osaka will defend US Open title, organisers confirm. So that's really good news that she's back in action. The London Times, their back page, England stars Ashes Doubts and Gatland Box have already been wounded. I would say that actually there is sometimes in the past where the Lions have provoked the locals with some trash talk. Austin Healy famously referred to one of the Australians in very derogatory terms, and then was effectively picked up and eaten by that same Australian in the test match. He went on to have like one of the games of his career to win the match, like literally steals the last line-out ball to win the series.
I think Austin Healy actually was weighing in on that Owen, Farrell, Rassie, Erasmus debate from 2018, actually calling Farrell's training antics as not very classy. So there's always an Austin Healy response in there somewhere.
Leon me when your pog's gone. Goretzka backup plan.
It's tab of the morning to you, really, isn't it?
Well, how do you do?
Tab of the morning. It's the best one we've had in a while.
So, Paul or nothing, Ole and Pogba, the Frenchman, could make way for Goretzka. Manchester United are lining up German star Leon Goretzka amid mounting fears they will be forced to sell Paul Pogba. Leon me when your pog's gone. It's pretty good. Not all fun and games. Ireland's Jack Woolley is not bothered by the lack of fans at the Olympics as coronavirus cases hit a 6-month high in Tokyo. The back page of the Daily Mirror. Players died and football didn't give a damn. This is the damning report It's a new inquiry into dementia in football. The report has been published. It slammed FA chiefs and the Players' Union over their failure to act. Dawn Assel has obviously been campaigning about this since the death of her father. It says former players were dying and nobody gave a damn. And this report comes from the UK Department of Culture, Media and Sport, and she hopes that it means that change will finally come. You would hope that that is the case, but history shows that these reports gather dust. The Irish Independent back page: mind games heat up as Gatland takes swipe at Box, and concussion casts major doubts over O'Donnell's season. This is a terrible story, really. Clare's Shane O'Donnell is unlikely to feature in the remainder of the Banners All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship campaign and may even struggle to feature with his club this season as he struggles with the effects of a recent concussion. He's played no part in their 2021 championship after suffering a concussion ahead of last month's league clash with Kilkenny, and he's understood to be making slow progress due to the severity of the injury. So he's still only 27, obviously famous for scoring the hat-trick in the All-Ireland final replay when Clare beat Cork in 2013, and at the moment he will not feature in the matchday 26. Brian Lohan has told Michael Verney that concussion is obviously a very serious matter now and we abide by the return to protocol rules. So that's we wish him all the best with that. Much more important that his general health returns rather than rushing it to get back and play. I'm not rowing to get a collection of medals, says Paul O'Donovan in a piece by Johnny Waterson. The Lachine rower has a set his sights on Tokyo gold, but that's not his only motivation. Paul O'Donovan, grunge rower, is the opening line. It's a brilliant opening line. A shaman, lean and feral, his look today is paleo chic. There's the long dark hair and an unkempt beard with crystal clear eyes peering through. The messaging is stripped down and bare essentials only. Frills free. Today O'Donovan is that badger staring out of a hedge. The rowers have kind of gone dark over the last 6 months. It was an official policy not to do too much media, not to speak, I think, to try and dampen expectation. But all it's done is really make them more mysterious. And I don't know, does anybody expect the rowers not to win medals?
Well, I think Paul O'Donovan is probably, not only is he expected to win a medal, he's expected to win a gold medal. Very rare do we have that expectation. Maybe not since someone like Katie Taylor has there been an expectation like that. And certainly in my lifetime, I think Katie Taylor's probably the only one I remember, like in terms of Olympics, there being a genuine expectation and a favouritism around that Olympian being associated with the gold medal. And I think Paul O'Donovan and obviously Vincent McCarthy have that same level of expectation. Like even Cathal Dennehy on the Olympic show yesterday was making the point that they're shorter odds to win the gold than Katie Taylor was to win the gold medal at London in 2012, which kind of sums up just how hot this pair are and how dominant they've been, and how their form lines are more relevant in a lot of other sports, because a lot of the really good pairs in the double sculls are from Europe, and the European Championships are so recent and they were so dominant in the European Championships. So yeah, it's there's a lot of expectation on them, but if there's one sport that has a certain mentality of athlete who are able to deal with a little bit of expectation, I think it's probably the rowers.
The front of the Examiner, at the top it is: Gatland will rely on Murray for impact off the Lions bench, and picking your moments, the unmissable Olympic events to set your alarm for. So that's the whole point about us talking earlier on about getting up at 3:30 in the morning to watch some of the bits and pieces. There's also a match report. Roscommon goalkeepers, quite famous at this point. You've got Big Boiler, you've got Cake, and I think we can add a third one. Conor Carroll saved a penalty last night for the under-20 team as they beat Mayo in Mayo 2-11 to 1-7 in McHale Park last night. Notable for like about a 45-second passage of play where one of the Rossies was injured and driven off the field in a golf cart, off the field in a blue and yellow golf cart, which made it look like it was like a bespoke Roscommon one, unless the Mayo crowd have just accidentally got one of their rivals' colours on their golf cart.
I fully want to believe that there was a golf cart on the road from Roscommon to Castlebar yesterday on the way to that game. It's the only possible explanation for those scenes. It was quite, like, I mean, you were watching this. I wasn't actually watching this last night. It was looked quite lonely for the poor fella sitting on the back of the golf cart. He was kind of like just on his own while somebody drove him away.
There was a brilliant camera angle that allowed you to kind of watch the whole thing, and a good bit of advertising for whoever Murray is, either the owner of the golf cart or the creator of the art. Anyway, and then immediately afterwards, a penalty is given and saved. So Connor Carroll is the third, the holy trinity of Roscommon goalkeepers, and if he goes on to have as good a career in whatever field he goes into as the other two lads, he'll be doing grand. We wish the Rossies all the best, obviously. The Telegraph this morning: devastated GB Gold Hope ruled out as COVID anxiety grips the games. This is, I mean, think about it. You get so close and all of a sudden COVID strikes. One of Team GB's leading gold medal hopes was ruled out with COVID-19 yesterday as the Olympics was gripped by infection anxiety. Amber Hill, the women's skeet shooting world number 1, was left devastated as she was obviously pinged. And then the other thing is that report is coming out. The protections afforded by the state to workers apply as much to footballers and jockeys as they do to miners and construction workers. We're astounded that sport should be left to mark its own homework, is the headline from that. So, and then the back of the Herald, I didn't get the end of there, did I? I did, yeah. The back of the Herald is COVID still a risk to every team. This is Chris Crummy talking about Dublin being hit by the outbreak last week, which really unfortunately stripped us of a proper contest when it came to the Leinster hurling final. So it would have been interesting to see what Kilkenny would have done against a full Dublin side, and what a full Dublin side would have done coming off the back of what must have been a massive victory for them in terms of confidence and just belief. So maybe we'll get a chance to see that as time goes on. And then Gatland has that warning for the Springboks as well. So that is in the papers this morning. Was there anything catching your eyes?
Yeah, just a couple of other back pages then on my side of things. We've already mentioned the Irish Daily Star this morning, leading with those Sean Powter comments. Rebel Yell is the headline. Murray's left on the bench, and here we row are a couple of the headlines on the rugby and the Olympics. The Guardian, taking the knee, is their main story there, as you've already mentioned. IOC social media teams banned from image posts. And then Rays of Hope is their headline on the start of the Tokyo Games. Olympic action begins in Tokyo with backing from World Health Chief, and then also Gatland hammering Erasmus over Waterboy ploy. It's things are simmering along nicely, and we're in the very early stages of any beef between Gatland and Erasmus here, considering there's 3 full test matches. Because what tends to happen is that there's a contentious moment that sparks a reaction from somebody in a press conference, which invariably leads to a reaction from the other coach. Just doing some very half-assed research here on what exactly was it that led to Warren Gatland being characterised as a clown in the New Zealand Herald. Do you remember that? Yeah, 4 years ago.
He had the nose ready to go.
If the nose fits, Warren was the headline beside it as well. And it was actually Conor Murray. It was I'd forgotten about this. Conor Murray and his standing leg being targeted deliberately by the All Blacks was something that Warren Gatland took issue with. And then you had Steve Hansen phoning into a radio show calling the claims desperate. You had a friend of the show, Gregor Paul, writing in the same column with the artwork saying, implying the All Blacks are dirty is the unforgivable sin. Questioning their playing ethics and morals is a line that can't be crossed. It seems that the Springboks sort of embraced that sort of stuff. You used Handra Pollard.
We'll stick our finger in your eye. Got carried away with it, should have been sent off, but I wasn't, and we won the game. Who cares?
There's been a few attempts at jibes with regards to the style of play or the physicality that South Africa bringing. Pollard the other day was like, yeah, so what? Have you seen the size of my muscles? And they don't seem to mind too much about that. But still, there were certainly the first 2 tests. Once you got a full week of build-up, and if it's 1-1 going into the final test, I think this simmering tension between the 2 boys could only be getting started right now. Well, the only thing is Erasmus isn't really in the picture now, is he? If Ian Aber comes back and...
It's funny how Rassie, you get the sense, is still the boss.
Isn't it extraordinary that even during that Georgia game, he was running the water for Ian Aber? He is your boss. The director of rugby doing it, it is still mad. I can see why you would do it. I can definitely see why you do it when Ian Aber is not there for the South Africa A game. But it's still you're the head coach and you've got your superior, your director of rugby running the water for you in regular games. It is unusual, very unusual.
It's 8:38 this morning. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number. A reminder, the OTB Sports Olympics show is live from 5 o'clock tonight. It'll be on at 5 o'clock every evening across the Olympics. We'll be bringing you the very biggest stories of the day and also take a look ahead to what's to come as well. It's all brought to you in association with Indeed, who are proud to support Team Ireland at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Indeed believes the world works better when people are given every opportunity to unleash their true talents, and the hashtag is Talent Unleashed. Tim Vickery and Cathal Denny joined Richie McCormack on yesterday's OTB Sports Olympic show with Indeed. Here's Cathal Denny talking about Ciara McGeehan.
this looks like it's going to be the games for her if she's going to produce something really, really special at Olympic level.
Yeah, I think so. I think it has to be now or never in terms of the Olympics for Ciara. I mean, she raced quite sparingly this year, which I don't know if that was all part of the plan or if it was related to maybe just overcooking things at the odd time in the past. Or maybe it was due to having a few niggles or setbacks early on, which I think she had kind of through the spring. She finished 10th in the World Final in Doha in 2019, and I think it's going to be touch and go again. You know, you'll have 2 semi-finals, first 5 will go through automatically. There'll be a few fastest losers through on time. And I think Ciara would be right on the brink of either just missing out in the final or just getting into that final. The standard at women's 1500 is absolutely crazy. You've Faith Kipyegon, probably the greatest to ever do it, is almost certainly, I'd say, going to win gold in that 1500. You've Sifan Hassan and possibly in there. She's talking about even an Olympic treble between 1500, 5,000 metres and 10,000 metres, which would be just bonkers if she has the audacity to try that. And then you have a lot of depth, people like Laura Muir as well, who are, you know, running in the kind of mid 350s in and around the 355 range. So unfortunately for Ciara, the medals are not going to happen. You know, I'm sure she mightn't say that, but just looking at it with an objective eye, it's not going to happen for Ciara, a medal at this Games. But at the same time, when you're in an event, and 1500 metres is one of the blue ribbon events, and you're talking about a sport that is only rivaled by soccer in terms of its global reach, and possibly basketball or maybe boxing, obviously. So you're talking about, I always compare it with someone like Ciara McGee in an event like that to like if the soccer team makes the World Cup quarterfinal. We're not crying and saying they underperformed because they finished 7th or 8th and didn't make the semi-final. We're celebrating the fact that they made the top 8 in a truly global sport. And I think if Ciara can get in amongst the top 8 or top 10, it would be a huge, huge achievement for her.
Yeah, so more from the Daily Olympic Show every day at 5 o'clock here on all of the OTB social channels. It's 41 minutes past 8 this morning. I'm delighted to say David Brady is with us. David, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. How's things, Jar?
You're Mystic Meg. You were the only one who went public with the notion that you thought the Cluxton era was over. You took quite a bit of heat for it, but you were right.
I took some slack, and I was told to get back into my box the following day. Kieran Kilkenny came out the following day and said he was part of the panel, and he made me look like a gobshite. But I kind of gone, but I was confident. And look at the reality. As I said at the piece, when you put all the pieces of the picture together. At that stage of the year and everything else, but I don't have the answers. But I do feel that he hasn't retired, and that would probably be the easy way out. And I don't know, but it's not a positive from a Dublin perspective, and that filters down because he has been their leader, he has been their role model, he has been their captain, and Stephen Cluxton is the epitome of everything that's been good about Dublin. For the last decade, and he's not there, and there's a reason behind it.
Do you think he comes back next year, or do you think he's done for good?
Honestly, there's something going on, and a man once said to me when I wasn't on the best of terms, or we just didn't see eye to eye with John Maughan. He said, you got to realise, David, that you'd be there a lot longer than John Maughan. And it kind of made sense, but on the Stephen Cluxton point, Stephen won't be, Dessie's there for the next 2 to 3, 4 years, no matter what. No matter what, Dublin will have confidence in Dessie, and that means that Stephen won't outlive that length of time by sitting on the sidelines or not being part of the panel. I think something will happen, and I would love, and I think it would be fitting to see Stephen Cluxton end his career on a pitch and through the medium of a game and championship, and for that respect to be given to him, it's well deserved, more than most footballers in the history of the GAA. He deserves it, and I think this year is just maybe there's a statement of intent from Stephen, and I think he could be back next year when things are smoothed over. And if you ask me one thing, right. The values that Dublin have held to their heart and to the core of what they are as footballers over the last decade is very much representative of Stephen Cluxton and the players that's played with him. I do think that them values were probably dinted or probably lowered by the training, behind closed doors training. And I don't think that sat well with Stephen. And I don't think he said it represented the values that Dublin have lived by and played by.
Do you accept that though? But so one thing, right? And Andy McEntee in the aftermath of the game wished well to the 3 Dublin footballers who obviously were injured in the, tongue in cheek, criticising them for going down. But if you remember, as you would of course against Mayo, when David Clark goes to put the ball on the tee in stoppage time, 5 or 6 of the Dublin lads rugby tackled their opponents to the ground, and everybody said it should have been 5 or 6 black cards. But there's a level of gamesmanship and pushing everything to the boundaries, physicality, the rules, whatever it is within the Dublin setup, with the aim of winning All Irelands, of harvesting All Irelands. And in a way, training while other people aren't training is actually in keeping with that, despite all the stuff about, our values are like, we're this whiter than white team, because they're not. That's not how you become the greatest team of all time.
By just George, they've been white as white off the pitch to a degree. And what goes on past the white lines, it means is you have no values. And you shouldn't as a competitive sports person. The values don't really come into it when you cross the white line, when that ball is thrown up. And that's the truth. And that's not being disrespectful to any individual. But there is a certain set of values as a player that you live by, or you try and go by when you're off the pitch, and when you're when you're outside of the pitch, outside of the hustle and bustle. And by just, there's no one, whether it's someone in Dublin, Carlow, Leitrim, or Mayo, that you'll do everything when the ball is on the pitch and when you're on the pitch, and you can't really have values. I think it was a Paolo Di Canio that was it, did he catch a ball coming into the square, and that's once in a lifetime you see these things happening. But bar that, there's everyone's an enemy on the pitch. But it is very much a virtue of the way the successful teams of this world live by, that they become good people, and by that they live by a certain set of values and morals off the pitch. Don't mind what goes on the pitch. Manchester Dublin did exactly what Mayo should have done in that All-Ireland final by pulling down 10 or 15 fellas and kicking the ball off the tee. And look at Manchester League kicking through the GPS, and there's no rules. There's no rules on the pitch except the referee, and he's the only one. But I think that's a major part of it. Okay,
and look, we obviously await with bated breath some kind of official communication from Stephen Cluxton about what's going on. But
he'll probably come out tomorrow now and say he's coming back.
Well, it would be a pattern at least, David. It would be a pattern.
Yeah. I stirred the hornet's nest.
Definitely, last time. Okay, with that all in mind, and Tommy keeps totting up the number of All-Ireland medals that step out week on week, and it's literally been every week since the championship started. A bunch of All-Ireland medals have been taken off the table from a Dublin perspective, with more last week when Lowndes went. Are Mayo thinking, notwithstanding the fact that Killian's not fit this year, are they thinking, Jesus lads, it's right? No. Why not?
No, because you're playing Galway on Sunday at 1:30, and they're the biggest enemy you'll ever have as a Mayo man. And by this, if you're thinking 2 steps ahead, or you're even having a little dream to yourself in the sun when you're eating your ice cream in the last week, not a chance. And that's very much everyone knows that. Everyone knows that from the supporters' point of view to the players, and across the border in Galway as well. There's no one looking at anything else but this game on Sunday. And again, it is a massive rivalry, and probably for me the only constant rivalry over the last number of years, decades, 20, 30 years, because there's never been a trouncing. There's been trouncings in league games and whatnot, but Mayo and Galway, there is that real raw reality of football and rivalry and provincial rivalry, and down, look at its hatred. Hate losing. We don't hate Galway people, and Galway people don't hate Mayo, but we hate losing against them. And every single game, if you look back, no matter when Mayo were on the crest of a wave or when Galway were, favourites to top of Mayo, there's only been a kick. There's only been a score. And what does it come down to? And maybe it's just the two teams are very evenly balanced. But if you look at the championship record, Mayo have progressed massively further over the last decade versus Galway, but it comes down to rivalry and that intensity to win, and no team will be looking at maybe a weakened or maybe not a strong Dublin in the semi-final. This is a massive game, and it's in Croke Park. I don't know, someone said 98 years. I don't know why it was there 98 years ago, but the Connacht final in Croke Park on Sunday. A lot of people are saying, it should be back in Castlebar, and look, there's pros and cons, and that it'd be good for the retailers and it'd bring a crowd. But I have to say, I think it's a good decision on the overall context of things, that you allow 18,000 people approximately into Croke Park to see a game that is really going to be, no matter. It's not, probably mightn't live up to the quality of the games we've seen in Ulster. Probably mightn't live up to the quality of game we might see in Kerry and Cork, but it is going to be relentless, and there's going to be damn all in it, and that's the most used cliche you'll ever hear with a Mayo Galway. There'll be only kick of a ball in it, because that's what it's proven down to the statistics over the last 10 years.
Absolutely, and you're dead right, and nobody is disputing that this game on Sunday is already decided or anything like that. But if Mayo win, if they win on Sunday and they manage to come through what will be a massive test, they will have got to win in Croke Park, and will then more than likely be coming up against a Dublin team with all those absences. As a fan, and I'm not saying what James Horn has been thinking about, as a fan and as a Mayo man, David, has the ultimate success entered your mind at one point or another this year?
George asked me that 2 minutes ago, and I said no. We're only
I'm talking about you, though, not as the
yeah. Honestly, no, because man says when have we been talking down Dublin or spotting weaknesses in them and everything else? And no, because you couldn't. And sure, man says we keep dreaming, but we're not dreaming about a semi-final against a weakened Dublin team, or not playing to the full of the potential, and they know that. But no, I honestly, I can't wait for Sunday. But it's great to go back to Croke Park. And it's great to go back as a supporter, and I can't wait for it, because it's a massive game because look at, you say, oh, were Mayo tested? No, but sure, that man says you can only play against what you're playing. Roscommon and Galway, for me, I think the likes of Matty Tierney, he's a fine footballer. He is the new generation, along with the Shane Walshes. Will Shane Walsh play? I'm looking forward to seeing the likes of Matty Rowan, Matty Tierney. Like they're the two one of the two best up and coming footballers in the country. But it's not going to come down to the young fellas or to the Aidan O'Shea's. It's going to come down to the likes of Owen O'Donoghue or Conor Loftus, from a Mayo perspective, from a consistency and free taking and scoring point of view. How they can attribute that. Tommy Conroy is back in Croke Park from a Mayo perspective after not having a very one of his better games. It's a big challenge for Tommy because this is the opportunity to set his mark on the All Ireland Championship 2021. I think he's a fantastic talent, but from a Galway perspective, you wouldn't be writing them off. You wouldn't be saying, they had bad league performances. They had a trouncing by Tyrone. Look, there's been a lot of heavy defeats over the last 12 months since COVID. We rejoined the COVID championship, but Joyce again. There's nothing more. There's nothing more the Porrick Joyce we want to win a Connacht championship, to beat Mayo. But yeah, it would be from a Mayo perspective. I'm confident, not very confident. I'm confident Mayo have the capability to cross the line. I like the way that the likes of young guys like Darren McHale has been introduced. Got a brace of goals there against Leitrim again, and a debutant from the Knockmore team, the county champions in Mayo. There's some nice footballers coming through, and I think that it's a great opportunity on Sunday.
It's interesting that you describe Galway as the biggest rival, the borderline hatred of Mayo, because listening to Frankie Dolan a couple of weeks ago, I thought Roscommon were the team who had that in Mayo's heart, or that special place.
Not at all. Frankie was trying to sell a book. No, not a chance. Not a chance. We hated losing against Roscommon because you have to listen to them for 12 months. But we didn't hate Roscommon. But they had that. You do have the Ballahedrine the Ballahedrine
colonisation, annexation, invasion.
Yeah. What did they call it? Is it not as a Beirut or something? But the Gaza Strip, I think they call it. But it is the rivalry, and let me tell you, no matter what you look back, it is that Galway rivalry, and I think one of the greatest. I had a conversation with an old man during the winter, and he says his greatest day ever in football was when Mayo bet Galway in 1965 after Galway had won the three All-Irelands in a row, I think it was, and Mayo bet them up in Salthill. He said that was the greatest day ever. He says because we put them down again on that pedestal. No longer were they the three in a row. He said once we had bet them on that day, they were nothing. And that's what it is in football. If you get your win over your rival, no matter what they won 12 months previous or 12 years previous, you can look over the wall and say we're better than you. And that's, and I'd always be saying the provincial championship, and we've seen the very worst of it in the last few weeks. But we've also seen the very best of it, because that rivalry is there and alive and well, and it'll be resurrected on Sunday.
Did you ever make peace with Mon?
Of course I did. Yeah.
And was it straightforward?
Of course it was. It's two men saying how's things and shaking hands. That's like everything else. And you know what? To be honest with you, and I don't think it's a major falling out between Dessie and Stephen, but someone will bring someone together. There'll be some conduit. There'll be some man in the middle. And there's plenty of them in Dublin. There's plenty of them in Dublin GAA. They say, look, will you have a coffee or will you sit down? Will you have a chat? And if you look at the two individuals, and I'd have known Dessie over the years, Dessie's a very easy guy to get on with. Maybe he made a mistake as a manager. I'd be the first to admit it. But yeah, there's always a man that will bring men together and say, look, and says, do it for the good and do it for the better of what it is, and that's GAA and that's your county.
And when's your book coming, DB?
My book, I'm still writing it, Ger. I'm still writing it. My old spelling isn't great, and it's probably with the solicitors for the last 12 years.
Well,
I'll write one. You boys you'll get a good mention.
The black market copy, the one that can't be published for legal reasons, that one would be very popular on WhatsApp. I'll tell you that.
It'd be like the Madonna. Remember the Madonna book years ago with the tinfoil across it? You couldn't go into the shop and have a go at it. You had to, they had it. That's about 20 years ago. But anyway, that's showing me age.
What was it called, DB?
Madonna.
Owen's too young for this. He doesn't remember the scandal.
As we speak.
Not safe for work, Owen. Not safe for work.
Yeah. Have a Google. That was big. That was big back then. But
the book was called Sex by Madonna. That's what the book was actually called. Yeah.
Right. But my book won't be called Sex by Brady. It'll be something different.
On that note.
Boys, enjoy the weekend, enjoy the sun.
Thanks a million, DB. You too, enjoy the game. That's David Brady livening up our mornings this morning here on OTB AM. Did you Google that?
I did. Madonna's sex book for sale on eBay for €46.76.
That's pretty cheap. I thought that it would have gone up in value.
Yeah, so did I.
The Sunday newspapers around the time used the opportunity to rip pictures from it to sell papers. So it was like, this is high art, but actually it was just their excuse to get some nudity into the Sunday papers. It's 8:58 this morning. A lot to unpack in that. I mean, we shouldn't just move straight away, should we?
No, we shouldn't. There is a lot. There's a lot there. I'm really excited for Galway against Mayo, which I know is kind of probably low down the list of priorities on the back of that conversation, but it somehow made me feel even more excited for that fixture than I already was.
Right, okay. OTB AM brought to you by Gillette. Good morning, start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Episode 11 of the Football Pod with Paddy and Andy is available to download and listen to right now. The first place to get the podcast every week is the OTB Sports app. You can get that for free in your app store. Subscribe in the OTB GAA feed or the Football Pod with Paddy and Andy, wherever you get it to listen to your podcast. There's a fresh episode of Paddy Andrews, Andy Moran and Tommy every Wednesday. Here's Andy talking about why he never really bought into the hype around Donegal.
You're saying it's fine lines, right? But it's been 3 years of fine lines. Like, Andy, in 2019 in that Super 8s game, that playoff to go into a semi-final or a semi-final, were Donegal favourites going into that game?
Yeah,
Castleburn.
Yeah, we like, and that's where I would get my, I suppose, thoughts about Donegal defensively. Like me personally, that day I came on before half time. I was approaching my 36th birthday, and there was an awful lot of space. Like, I mean, an awful lot of space. The two main men still at that time was McGee and Paddy McGrath at the corner, or in the corner and fullback, who were very close to my age, both of them, right? And Joe, I'm just thinking there's too much space here. This is me. Like, I was never quick, never fast anyway. But like I've had too many birthday cakes at this stage. I'm coming 36, and I just felt there was too much space, and I've never seen it improve since. I have just never seen that defensive shape being strong enough for Dublin to go and compete. And when McGeary takes the ball on the 1-2 last day to go through for that goal chance, I am just thinking, like, I am telling you now, if you do that against Dublin, or if you do that against even Tom Sullivan for Kerry, they just drop off you. They just drop off the full forward. They let him kick a point, and they save themselves a goal. Where we've seen it for Armagh, the fullback rushes, the fullback rushes for McMenamin, I think it is, for Donegal. And McGeary then is straight through, running down on
too easy. It was just way too easy.
It's too easy. And for that, you're playing tightrope football. You're expecting Langan and Murphy and McBrearty and these boys to kick it to the championship. And to me, I've never seen them plugging them home.
Right. So harsh enough, but it ultimately quite fair about where Donegal have gone in the last couple of years. Aisling O'Reilly, who was at the Donegal Tyrone game on Sunday, is going to join us in a moment. Tommy Rooney, 1/3 of the football pod, is with us. Tommy, good morning to you.
Hey lads, how you doing? Just dealing with WhatsApps here from Dave and Brady.
Yeah.
How are you getting on?
Do not read them out. Is the advice. When in that, I could tell from the way you were about to. I was like, "Are you gonna talk us through what you're getting there?"
Yeah, no, that was an interesting 15 minutes. There's a lot to get into. There's a lot going on in the football pod this week. I presume you haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. It was out yesterday evening. Andy Moran never bought into the hype around Donegal. And as you heard there, it was all because of a game in 2019 when he was 36 and he came on and he roasted a couple of Donegal defenders, and he just hasn't bought into them since. And I should have listened to him, because I think we all pick Donegal on the quick picks last Friday on?
Yeah. We didn't assume Michael Murphy was going to be sent off, though, or miss a penalty.
I didn't think Michael Murphy would be starting. I think that was possibly the first mistake they'd made. We'll hear from Ashton in a minute about Tyrone, but yeah, Donegal are the big letdowns, aren't they?
They are, and you can paint that. The context matters, and in recent years they have been letdowns at other stages as well. And I think they've been one of the most disappointing teams in Gaelic football in recent years. But there's a massive caveat, I think, with last weekend with regards to the Murphy thing. Now, there will come a time when Michael Murphy's not available for Donegal again, and they will have to just get used to life without him. And maybe against Derry they showed that they can do that, but against Tyrone they showed that there's a limit to what they can do without him. And maybe they just need to step up when he's not around. But still, being down to 14 men, missing a penalty like that, and seeing him kind of go like that, I don't know, I think that has to have a huge impact on the result at the end of the day. And while Tyrone were good, I still think that was a result turning couple of minutes, actually, the whole Michael Murphy saga in the first half.
Yeah, definitely. Like I think with 10 minutes to go, there was only a point or so in it. So yeah, it was fine lines, but it's been 3 years of fine lines for Donegal.
Aisling's with us now. Aisling, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, lads. How are you?
You were at the Donegal Tyrone game. Owen's making the point that the sending off obviously defines the result. I'm not sure that it fully defines the result. It's clearly a massive moment, right? And I'm not suggesting it isn't. But Tyrone's bench is now one of the best benches in the country. Maybe all those players, by the time Tyrone make it to Croke Park, if they make it that far, are starting. So it's a different point. But at the moment, Tyrone's bench is sensational.
Yeah, and that's the difference with this Tyrone team, I think, that we haven't seen maybe in previous years. Because in that last quarter, seeing Colin McShane, Conor McKenna, Tiernan McCann, these players that will be starting, as you said, you're probably in the next game or so, but having them come off the bench, like I was speaking to Kieran McGeary after the game, and he said, you know, it was dire conditions, it was baking hot, and he said he just looked over at the subs coming on and he's seen these lads and he just said, thank God, you know, and he said, we haven't had that. This is new for us to have lads like this coming on and that make a massive impact. Like Conor McKenna was down in the back line. I think he sprinted the whole length of the field and he set up a score at that point, and then he put it over at another point, and it was like 30 degrees and he was just so energetic, and he was like fist pumping the whole way. He was just so like up for this game. He's delighted to be back on the pitch, and yeah, as you said, it's these subs that are really making the difference.
One thing that we can't really tell from watching the TV is the pattern of where the defenders are aligned and how many people are behind the ball when Tyrone are out of possession, and it's something we've kind of been obsessed with since they shipped all those goals against Kerry. So were they super defensive out of possession? Were they kind of old school Mickey Hart style, or are they at least continuing to keep three players up?
I wouldn't say three, no. Like Darren McCurry would stay up, but they had the likes of Matty Donnelly. He was in full forward. Well, he was down to be in full forward against Donegal, and he went out to the midfield. And then for the second half, he pushed in, and they kept him up there then, and he got 3 points. They fed him the ball up there, but and he was rattled at the start, Darren. Like he scored 10 points against Cavan, and I'm sure going out against Donegal, they were saying, we'll man mark him, and that's exactly what they done. And he was rattled the first 15 minutes. His pass were going astray, even like a hand pass, someone coming through, he was putting it wrong, and they definitely got in his head a small bit, but he definitely turned it around then, and I think he finished the game with 5 points. But yeah, we're definitely seeing more direct ball, direct style of play. Very different, I would say, from the Mickey Hart style.
And the thing, Aisling, as well, is that we kind of like almost forget how unbelievable McCurry and Donnelly are at their best. Especially McCurry now, in fairness, anybody who's watched Tyrone this year knows how well he's playing again this year, but you suspect that with McKenna and McShane in the starting team, and who knows if Dara Canavan's going to come back to the starting team as well come the end of the year. Like, I mean, he's a live option to get to an All-Ireland semi-final, you suspect, and McDonaghy in there too. Like, someone like McCurry doesn't necessarily get drowned out by that, you suspect. He then gets the weakest man marker in the opposition defence, and he goes to another level potentially.
Exactly, they can't man mark every single player, and this is something that I think Tyrone have now. They have such 6 strong forwards, if not more, coming off the bench. So yeah, it's going to be very tough. But yeah, on Darren, it's funny. I think this year he's really coming alive. And I was speaking to a few former players, and you know, they said like he doesn't drink, he doesn't go out, he's like in the gym, he does a lot of his own work, and he seems like this year, like I spoke to him as well after the Cavan game, and he's put a lot of work in it, like you know, outside of their training. And you can really, really see the difference in him. So yeah, delighted for him that he's really coming alive, and he's hard to stop. But as you've said, they have another like 6 or 7 lads that are seriously hard to stop on that forward line.
What's their thoughts? Like, I'd be keen to get both of your thoughts on this. Aisling, to you first. Like, was one side of these semi-finals much stronger than the other? Because like we did have Paddy Andrews on last week, who had no doubt about the fact that whoever was going to win Donegal Tyrone was going to win Ulster. But the manner in which Monaghan won last week probably gives second thoughts to that. So what are your thoughts on that firstly, Aisling?
Yeah, like I would have tipped Armagh before the game. I definitely thought Armagh were going to do something this year. So yeah, disappointed for them. But you just don't know what Monaghan team you're going to get. I think that's Mickey Graham made that point to me after the game. He said they're a bit like Cavan. You just don't know what way they're going to turn up or what like performance they're going to put in sometimes. And obviously they're playing Division 1 football. They're consistently in Division 1 along with Kerry and Dublin. I think they're the only other consistently team that's there. So that's no mean feat either, to be playing at that level all the time. So you just don't know what you're going to get. Now, after seeing that game and seeing them go down and have such a lead, go behind and come back, that showed serious character, and that was very impressive now to see that. So after seeing that, I do think they will put it up to Tyrone, but I do think the Tyrone Donegal game was maybe of a bit of a different standard, and I do think that Tyrone will get over the line against Monaghan, but I do think it'll be really, really close.
Yeah, Tommy, I think the fact that it's in Croker is really important from a Monaghan perspective, and them just not performing brilliantly in Croker in Championship. There's been a couple of league games where they played quite well and they ran Dublin close, but I think switching the Ulster final to Croke Park is a big win for Tyrone.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's as big a win as the Mayo switch there, but I would have been in the same boat as Owen, I'd say maybe a week ago, thinking that the Ulster final was going to be quite close, and I still feel like that. Now, I think Monaghan don't get the credit they sometimes deserve, but one of the big alarm bells that have been ringing is probably defensively. Like, Armagh racked up 14 points in that first half. They probably could have had 20 points in that first half. Even though Armagh's defensive issues were exposed by Monaghan so well with the 4 goals, and they were like glaring holes, in that defence. But Monaghan had issues as well. Like Armagh got themselves back into position from 8 or 9 points down. Armagh should have won that game. They should have held on. They were a point up with 5 minutes to go, and they actually gave the ball away 5 different times in the last few minutes. Rian O'Neill kicked 2 balls over the end line. Stephen Campbell, the captain, gave away 2 hand passes. Now, in fairness, if those hand passes got away, it would have been goals for Armagh and the game would have been over. And I think young Conor O'Neill gave away a ball as well. And on the flip side of that, this Monaghan side, one of the counties with the smallest populations in the country, have some of the best winners in the game, you'll say. Players who know how to win matches. These tight Ulster games have won a number of Ulster titles over the last 10 years when it's been very competitive. And you could hear, I'm not sure if it was Banty or one of the selectors roaring, don't force it. They're a point down in injury time. They win their 2 frees. McManus steps up. There's no one else you'd rather in that position. Like Andy and Paddy are raving about him this week on the podcast. He's somebody that started his career in defence, his intercounty career in defence, just like Paddy and Andy.
That's why they love him so much.
I don't think they ended up with the same ability to take frees in the 72nd minute as Conor McManus did. So, I just wouldn't write off Monaghan too early. Tyrone it's great to see Tyrone come to fruition at the weekend because it was a massive game for both counties.
Well, let me put it like this: Who are either of these 2 teams genuine All-Ireland contenders at this point, Tommy?
I don't think Tyrone are yet. I genuinely don't. Although I do only think there are only 2 All-Ireland contenders this year. I think Mayo without Killian O'Connor just aren't good enough.
I don't know. I think this Tyrone side, as Ashton started this conversation out, with the quality of players they have on the bench, if they get better, if they get a bit more time and a bit more fitness, for example, they'll have a game in Croker. If they win the Ulster final, they'll be in Croke Park for 3 games in a row if they were to go on. And if McShane gets back to the level where he's a potential footballer of the year over the next couple of weeks, which is not beyond the bounds of possibility, how are they not All-Ireland contenders?
Do you know what? I was probably a bit too rash here to write them off, because if you were to compare both benches at the weekend, we had a chat in the episode here about the Dublin bench in 2017 comparison to the weekend. At the weekend, Tom Lahiff, Sean Bugler, Cian Murphy and Colin Pascal come off the bench. Ashling for Tyrone was a Tiernan McCann come on and got 3 points. McShane comes on. You spoke about McKenna's influence when he came on. That is
come on.
That's players coming off the bench.
And that's how we would have spoken about Dublin for the last few years. Oh, the bench is the difference. It's in that last quarter and they empty the bench and sure, good luck. That's that. And that's the way we always spoke about it. But this is what Tyrone have. I don't know if they're a team a bit in transition. Obviously the new manager's in and they're working towards a goal, and I don't know if it's a year too soon, but I am a bit more on the boat with Ger that they get a bit of luck on their side. They get over Monaghan, say, and then they have a bit of luck on their side. I could see them. I could see them in an All-Ireland final. Absolutely. I don't know why we'd write them off. If you look at them on paper, you wouldn't write them off.
Yeah, and this group have been in an All-Ireland final very recently. They know what all the pomp and circumstances are going to be like, and it'll be their 3rd opportunity to try and take that in recent years. So look, I just think that Spillane wrote them off immediately last week. I was like, that does not make any sense. That is that's right up there with your core prediction last year, Pat. But sure, look, we'll leave it there, folks. Last question. Who is going to come out of Connacht this weekend? Aisling, I'll start with you.
Oh, do you know what? I think without Killian O'Connor, I would tip Galway. I just think he's too massive of a loss for them, and I've seen them a bit in the league. I've seen them against Roscommon. That was a messy game against Roscommon. It was a really wet, bad conditions day, but no, just the talent that they have, and I do think they'll get over the line there. They'll probably be that bit's too strong for them, just with their bench and stuff too. I think they'll just get over the line, and just without Killian O'Connor, I don't see it happening for Mayo, even though I would like it to. I have a lot of family in Mayo and they'll kill me for saying that, but I think it's going to be Galway.
All right, Tommy, I guess we're going to have to listen to the football pod to get your prediction.
I don't think I gave a prediction, Jared, because I just got too excited thinking about the game, the way the two lads were talking about it. Paddy was wearing a maroon top, so Andy wasn't happy with that. I'm pretty sure he tipped Galway, Paddy did.
He wasn't sure himself. I think, did he not take issue with one of our tweets about that?
I think that he was just in the wind-up there, but I'm pretty sure he tipped Galway. He's a big fan of Joyce and Divilly. Yeah, they get into it really well in it. I think Andy reckons that both Shane Walsh and Jim O'Connor will be risked in the sense that Michael Murphy was risked at the weekend.
Okay.
So, should be a box office game. I'll be there in Croke Park for Off the Ball as well, so we'll have plenty to talk about next week about it.
No spoiler alerts for the pod. Thanks very much. Aisling O'Reilly, Tommy Rooney, thanks a million for that, giving us those thoughts. If you've got a view, you can drop a comment in the YouTube channel. youtube.com/off the ball. By the way, if you didn't know that, you can subscribe to that as well, and again you'll get a notification if you turn them on whenever we are live, which is in the mornings and in the evenings and quite a bit in the afternoons now, of course, with the new Olympic show as well. I want to tell you what's on OTB Sports Radio. It's our live radio station every day at 1 o'clock. It's the story of Wexford 1956. It's the History of Sport lecture series with Paul Rouse from 3, the OTB Sports Olympic show at 5, inside Pádraig Harrington's gaff at 6. It's Pádraig Harrington's MTV Cribs version, and then tonight's Brian O'Driscoll, Rashida Adeleke, Jason Quigley, all on between 7 and 10 p.m. this evening. And we've got a treat for you after these. I talked to her about Brian O'Driscoll. It's Brian O'Driscoll meets Henry Shefflin next.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
It's not like it's a competition that's on again next year. You have to wait a full Olympic cycle to go again. Realistically, most of the team aren't going to be here again for the next Olympics, so it's like it's do or die.
It's really about who can sort of minimise the mistakes and make the least amount of mistakes and just sail a really smart series.
Doesn't stop just at the 100, 200 and 400. We have amazing girls in the 800 metres. It's carrying the whole way through, and I think that's something that's really important to note.
For the best Olympics coverage, subscribe to the OTB Highlights podcast feed on the OTB Sports app now.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
So, all right, we're first tee. Henry, you're a relatively inexperienced golfer. Is that honest?
Well, yes.
Assumption?
I'm happy you stated that, Brian.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So we'll let you go first?
Here we go.
Ah, Jesus.
That was a lucky one.
Oh, my God.
That was a lucky one.
I am a stiff now, Brian. The hip's not working great.
Were you not training last night? You should be nice and loose. Good contact.
Yeah, but where's it gone?
So you're back into management, but not with Ballyhale this time. So first of all, what was the thinking of finishing up with Ballyhale and then a relatively short period of time, and now you're back in with Thomastown, is it?
Yeah, Thomastown, yeah. So when I finished up playing inter-county with Kilkenny was 2014, and then I played another 3 years with Ballyhale.
Yeah.
The last year I was playing, I hurt my knee again.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't right, so I actually was a sub for when we went out of the championship. And things just didn't go right for us. We'd had a poor couple of years with Ballyhale, and I just felt there was an opportunity. The management was changing, they were stepping down, so the club approached me to see if I'd get involved. So I probably hadn't aspirations of it, Brian. So I went straight away from finished playing to managing.
Straight into it, yeah. How was that when you're because are Ballyhale these guys your mates? Or
yeah, very much mates.
Right.
Yeah,
so how does that dynamic work when you go in and start? You're one of the lads one day, and then I know it's not professional setup, but it's difficult to just flip that switch to being management.
Yeah,
you got to let guys down and stuff.
Yeah, and that was the difficult part of it. But I suppose I approached it very easy at the beginning, Brian, because I knew it was going to be a settling in period. I kind of wanted to distance myself, so even that winter I kind of distanced myself from the lads.
Yeah.
When I was announced, and that would have continued. But I still would have been one of their lads, Brian. I suppose that's how you want to manage, you know, in the sense of what kind of a manager you want to be. So for me, it was all about the people, and when I went in first, there was probably, you know, with a club team, there was a wide variety of players, and I probably wanted to bring the person on more so than the player, in the sense of just we've a lot of club players who just are happy just to go through the motions. So it was probably about getting them on board, Brian, and trying to really develop them as people and push them on. So that's what I was hoping.
Why? Because the ability is there, but you just think there's something lacking in kind of the motivation side of it?
Yeah, I think it's the motivation, but as well as that, what you have a lot of is that players that don't have great confidence in themselves.
Right.
And are probably happy enough to be a sub in the team.
Right.
Come training. You know, it's not at the inter-county level, so they're happy enough to have their few pints the weekend, have the bit of crack, and just tip along. But they're not getting the best from themselves, they're not getting the optimum from themselves. So I suppose that was the challenge, was to have those players on board, you know. I'm getting concerned when checking out the binoculars. Jesus, slow down.
Bit. And what about now then? Okay, so you're into Thomastown. What's the thinking behind that now in the longer term? Well, so I'm sure you don't want to get ahead of yourself, but people start asking questions, you know, have you aspirations to do this on a bigger scale, to one day, you know, manage the county, if things go well with Thomastown and so on, and you're continue developing as a coach. So is that now on your eye line?
It's the journey, I think. I've started a journey because I didn't.
You're open to it?
Yes, absolutely, yeah, because I did enjoy it. It's full on, it's a massive commitment. And as you said, like, I have a young family, so it's the right timing, but it's a learning environment. That's why I've gone from Ballyhale, is that I've learned a lot in Ballyhale, and I've gone into a new environment now. So Thomastown are an intermediate club here in Kilkenny, so I just wouldn't manage against Ballyhale, you know, I just wouldn't.
Really, would you not?
Oh, no. Jesus,
but like, you know,
like,
you look at coaches around the world. You look at someone like Ronan O'Gara, who's gone to New Zealand and France, and I saw him quoted during the week of the semi-final against Leinster, being asked, would you ever coach Leinster? And he said, as a player, I would never have dreamt of playing for Leinster, but yet coaching is a different thing altogether. So, not that I see him being a future Leinster coach, but he's left that option open. So do you not see, you look at Eddie Brennan going to another county, you know, surely you must feel as though for a development, you only know Ballyhale, and now obviously you're at Thomastown, but, you know, where's the harm in going and pitting yourself against what you know?
You know, there's a lot of harm in it because my nephews are playing for Ballyhale. You know, my family are from Ballyhale. So yeah, I'm surprised to hear you say that about Ronan, because I would have been surprised to see he would take on Leinster. But
at the same time, to get a kind of a more holistic look of how you can become a better coach and seeing how other environments do it, surely that can only add to the knowledge that you have built as a Kilkenny player.
Yeah, but Brian, I just wouldn't do it against my own.
You've come from this massively successful environment and you have all these values. Is there anything concerning about how that doesn't fit into a smaller system, into a less competitive environment, particularly with a group of complete strangers, as you said?
Yeah, I think I was very fortunate with Kilkenny, and then I was even more fortunate with Ballyhale, because like, we didn't lose a championship match the 2 years I was there. So I'm stepping into a team now that haven't been successful, and I suppose that is one of the vulnerabilities that I face, is that, you know, you mightn't be successful, and I know that is coming, and I know that there's going to lose more than you win more. But
is that intimidating? Like going into an environment, you have this great reputation as a player, and you put it on the line again as a manager.
Yeah, I think we're standing over a putt, so this one is going to be intimidating, but it is very similar. So I met these group of players last December, and I was very nervous. I was intimidated because I just don't know what they're thinking or what they're expecting to see. You know, they're seeing Henry Shefflin come and he's been successful with Ballyhale. Is it all just going to happen very quickly? And I know that's not the case. So, but I'm always, and even this morning coming in here to this, like, as you can see, I don't play much golf, but I think you have to be your authentic self. And that's what I do really come back to that. I've found that in my life now, Brian, is that, you know, there were stages during my career with Kilkenny where I wasn't myself. I was more concerned about what people thought about me, what the press said about me.
And did you behave accordingly to what their expectation was?
I think sometimes, yes, but as well as that, I probably mentally and psychologically wanted what they wanted. So I pushed myself. So, you know, you play very well in an All-Ireland semi-final and you're kind of, you know, you're branded up as this is going to be the star man, and you put serious pressure on yourself then for an All-Ireland final. And that wasn't me, you know.
Was it not, no?
No, it wasn't me. To a certain extent, but I was probably playing to the galleries a little bit, and I was probably putting that pressure on myself, which brought its own issues and concerns for me, because I didn't enjoy it as much that period.
Okay.
You know, I just didn't enjoy it. So,
because from the outside, you looked as one of those players. You know, when pressurised situations come along, some players balk and run out the gate, and other players run towards that pressure, and they invite it upon themselves, and they think, okay, I run the risk of being the villain here, but they don't see the villain side. They only see the high side, the achievement where I'm going to actually get this done for us.
Yeah.
And it's not even wanting to be the hero, but just that anticipation and excitement fuels some people's desires. And you always came across as one of those sort of players.
Yeah, and I did, Brian, but I probably could have enjoyed it more. I just didn't enjoy it, and that's what I think I was affected because of that pressure I put on myself, because I wasn't being myself. You know, and that was the concerning thing for me. So,
how did that manifest itself? Is that a sleepless nights thing? Is it thinking about it ad nauseum?
For any of the GAA followers, it would have been. I played an All-Ireland final in 2009, and I remember the Thursday before it, and my legs was just gone. I wouldn't have been able to walk around the golf course here. I had just gone completely mentally. I just put so much pressure and anxiety on myself. I was just a ball of stress, and that's how it manifested itself. And I was lucky enough I was able to come around for the game itself, but I look back at that period and say, why, you know?
Okay.
Why, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's see pressure here.
Oh, Jesus.
Bit of a bubbly one. It jumped out right. Okay, we'll give you that. Okay.
Oh, deadly.
All right.
Nice par for you.
It's funny, you know, when you're living it, you don't want to think and enjoy that, because you always feel as though there's more to come, right? There's another one to get. You get greedy. You get a bit of success and you get a taste for you're like, you know, oh no, that'll do me. Nonsense. You're like more, and then you know that there's a time when you can't do it anymore, and there's the reflection piece.
Yes.
But have you had a good chance to really appreciate it and look back and go, that's amazing times, and it's highly unlikely that there's going to be many other players that are going to be able to achieve what I've managed to achieve?
I think, actually, and that's one of the times, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to step away from Ballyhale, because I didn't really have that reflection period. Because when I was playing for Ballyhale, I thought I was a Kilkenny hurler. I was still just driving myself and just wanted to just be successful. And it was last year, with the lockdown and COVID and the matches being on television, that self-reflection piece really came to the fore, I think. So.
And how do you do? Is that just you on your own thinking about it? Is that you sharing memories with your family, with Deirdre, with?
Yeah, well, do you know what? Like my Sive is 13, Henry now is 11, like Sheahan is 10, and Freddie is 7, 6, 7. So he's 7 now. He was 6 last year. Right? So let me just clarify that one. But yeah, and they're becoming more interested in it, Brian, and they want to talk about it.
Okay.
And it's brilliant. Like, they're just brilliant for memories. Like, I'm not great for describing moments.
I'm awful for it as well. I'm awful for it.
So but Deirdre's brilliant for that. She can remember everything, yes. She can remember everything. So in that sense, I think there was a lot more time. And that was the beauty of being around all last year, was that we had that time to talk about those kind of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think it just brought family to the fore, you know. I think that's been it. And look, honestly, you know, as well as that, I think a big change in my life was the time my son had that accident, you know. It just changed my whole perception of life, you know. So I think you have to have a passion, you have to have a purpose about something you want to do. But as well as that, you have to really understand what your values are. And for me, value number one is my family.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing for me. So I think it just, it brought to light that more.
Do you look at the high achievement past and think that's unachievable in other realms of life, but you've made peace with that?
Yes, yeah.
It's taken me a while to get there.
Right.
It really has. Like I wanted to try and be world class.
At everything you do?
No, at the next thing. Yeah, try and find that it's a fix. Oh,
yes.
Oh, very nice. That's some up and down.
Huh?
That's some up and down, right. Follow that in.
Oh, nice, nice. Ah.
You talked there about Matt the Pro giving you a couple of things to think about. And in many ways, golf was quite like, you know, be it goal kicking or, you know, line out throwing or free kick taking. What's your thought process standing over a free, or are you just completely at ease with all the drills that you've had and you're not even...
Yeah, I'm very zen-like in what I'm doing. I'm just following my... I wouldn't say it's a process, I just do what comes naturally to me. So, like I've learned over the years, I steady myself up, I take my 2 breaths inhaling, I straighten my shoulders in line where I want the target to hit. And that just came very naturally to me, Brian. I didn't never say to myself I needed to take 2 breaths. It just seemed to happen for me, you know. So, you know, you see all the goal kickers in rugby and stuff, and the whole visualisation and the movement and everything like that. I didn't have anything.
You didn't have any of that?
No, none of that, none of that. I'd say there's a couple of instances in my life where free taking in my life where I went, Jesus, now I need to really think about this. So.
Why? Why would you have changed that at
because it was
moments?
Critical moments.
Okay.
It was
and
very
was
important.
that just about sharpening your focus a little bit more?
Yes, yeah. So we, 2009, we got an our penalty in the All-Ireland final against Tipperary, critical stage in the game, and I just knew this is going to be a pivotal moment, and I really need to think about what I was doing. So
how does that change? You know, what do you think differently?
Well, it was a penalty first of all, so I probably wouldn't have taken many of those over my career. But I had to really, I suppose, critically analyse what was in front of me. So I had Brendan Cummins, Pádraig Marr, and I think it was Conor O'Mahony for Tipperary, all 6 foot. But I had thought about in the lead-up, Brendan Cummins used to hold his hurl with his left hand on top. So he was standing in goal with his hurl like that. And I knew to myself, if I thought I needed to think about just because the atmosphere, as you can imagine, at that moment was just, you know, was at a very high level. So I just needed to kind of pull myself back from the whole thing and just kind of take a deep breath and really understand what I wanted to do. And I realised that I wanted to go the other side of Brendan Cummins, so that if I went here, this side, it would favour him blocking it. So I just needed to go this shoulder. Cross his body, so he needed to switch hands. And that was one incident like that.
How accurate was that penalty?
Yeah, it was very accurate, yeah.
Yeah?
I'm more accurate than my drives here today.
How important is legacy to you? As a player, but now as you get into management, the potential legacy that you leave behind in that regard too?
I think it's more important in management because I think it's a legacy of what you'll do with the people you have involved. I think that's very, very important to me. So that if you're managing a TJ Reid of this world, that he, you know, speaks highly of you. But more importantly, I think it's the players, especially at GAA club level, that probably are going to float along through their sporting career. If you can do something for them that lights the fire within them to kind of increase their enjoyment, but I think their performance levels, I think that will be beneficial to them in the sporting field. But I think in their careers, in their professions, in their family lives. I think that's very important. So I think you can do that by management. I think you have that opportunity, I think, by being a manager of a team and leading a team into situations like that. I think you can have that impact.
Yeah, really, really fascinating stuff there. I think Henry Shefflin is absolutely unique. It's just listening to him in the build up to the 2009 All Ireland final, talking about how difficult things were for him there, and how it was difficult for him to walk in the week of the game. He scores 1-8, and notwithstanding it's for 4 in a row, which obviously is historic enough. They're matching history in hurling terms and in GAA terms, and then to all of a sudden start thinking about the process of the penalty, as opposed to just going into, I've done this a million times, I'm in my back garden, all the stuff that you read about the psychologists say, don't make it about the specific moment. He does, he makes it about the specific moment. He goes, I see Cummins' hands, the placement of his hands, and I'm going to hit that, and then he does it. Is next level, the antithesis of all of the psychological the psych books and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't really thought about that unless people are instructed in a different way for hurling as opposed to soccer, because obviously that is the analysis for soccer, right? Isn't it? That it's never change your mind when you walk up to a penalty because it's you versus the goalkeeper. But I wonder, just with the added layers of there being an extra man either side of Cummins on that point, does that change it? And maybe as well the fact that the goalkeeper's holding an actual stick is a little bit of a tell. It's not necessarily, you don't need to do a Jorginho step or a Bruno Fernandes hop to get a tell from the goalkeeper. The way the goalkeeper's actually holding the stick is actually a tell. It's not to diminish that whatsoever. It's an incredible piece of insight, and to actually be able to feed all that into your brain at that moment.
And as you can imagine, the atmosphere was quite up at that time. Well, there's massive controversy about the awarding the penalty. Yeah. There's bickering, and it's no, get away, the penalty's happening. And he's like, I just need to think about this now, as opposed to not thinking about it.
Yeah, it is even just the presence of mind to be I'm going to study the goalkeeper. Maybe that's part of what was trained. Maybe he had trained himself to, before actually focusing on my technique here, I'm actually going to study what I'm up against, because I presume a lot of what those moments involve is shutting out the noise and just going through the motions, so to speak, to focus on what you're good at, which is hitting a ball pretty hard into the back of the net in those moments. But to actually just take a cool moment beforehand, yeah, it's really
into a tiny window.
A nugget, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, some quick comments for you from across the show. Even though Mayo don't have Cillian O'Connor, I think they'll have enough for Galway, says James Breheny. Connor Joyce says Mayo will take Galway apart. Joyce and management are naive. They are not naive. You cannot say that. They have a successful team. They've been there, they've done it. They've battened down the hatches after the league as well. I think it's a good shout that Galway in Croker might be free from some of the burden that we've seen over the last while. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. Feedback to our constructive criticism slot. Robert on YouTube says, as a rugby fan, I'm listening to 5 pods at the moment for the tour. This is the only Irish one. Good man, Robert. Archie says, yeah, you guys are biased towards Irish players, but the English pundits are biased towards the English players, the Welsh towards the Welsh. Of course it's going to be this way. What do people expect? I think the glorious parochialism of the Lions is one of the best things about it. When this test is over, if the Lions lose the first 2 tests, on the Monday after the second test, we'll be like, who should be making the Lions 4 years' time? Here's our projected Lions cut. That's how it works.
Yeah, it's one of the best things. For me, I don't know, the best thing about the Lions is the novelty of seeing these guys play together, and I always say that I had a weird soft spot for the international rules for that same reason, even though nobody likes that.
Difficult to cheer on a team containing players you curse year after year, says John. This is that one short window where I'm like, yeah, go you Welsh rugby player, you whose name I won't even say, and go you Vinopolas. I draw the line at Billy. I'm never getting behind him.
How sad it is that we don't have Tuilagi and Vunipola, and I say we. How we don't have them for this tour. They would have made a great difference for us.
Mr. Hungry Eye says, a good segment, lads. I stand with my assessment of Nathan Murphy as a man. Bad loser and an even worse winner. that note.
Well, Leighton's won enough. He can take it.
OTB AM is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Imagine what it would be like if Mayo won the All-Ireland, what Nathan would be like. Imagine.
It's going to happen. It was like the Euros a couple of weeks ago, except the All-Ireland happens every year and Mayo have a chance to win it every year.
Tomorrow morning, we're talking the Lions, Dan and Quillen, our GAA quick picks, the crappy quiz, and much more as well. Right now, we're bringing you the football show with Richie and Johnny Ward, the OTB Sports app from 5 o'clock this evening. It is the Olympic show today, and from 7, Brian Driscoll, Rashida Adelecki, and Jason Quigley. Here's Johnny Ward.
And welcome back to the show. It is Richie McCormack here with you right through until 10 p.m. tonight on Off the Ball. Delighted to say, joining us back in studio after taking his little break after the news round, one Mr. John Ward. John, how are you?
It's still warm out there.
It's oppressive, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't sleep. That's the problem. I had to go downstairs last night. Just can't sleep.
I kind of feel bad for you at this stage, and feel bad for anybody who can't sleep at this stage, because it's just it's oppressive. It's not nice. We've gone past the point of where it's grand weather. Sure, it's nice to have a bit of sunshine for the football on a Friday night too. Lads, can you turn it off now?
I do kind of enjoy it. Like, I do enjoy I enjoy cycling in it. I enjoy kind of sitting in the park having a beer, kind of, but it is hot. And the worrying thing is, like, this isn't on a global scale, this isn't at all hot. I mean, I was at a Bray Galway United game at the Carlisle grounds, and everyone was like, oh, this is too hot for me. And I think with the day before it was like 54 degrees in Death Valley or something. I was like, this isn't hot.
Yeah. Moving on to slightly chirpier fare. We've got Irish teams involved in Europe. We're, after narrowing our focus down to the Conference League, obviously with Shamrock Rovers' exit.
Are you a fan?
From the Champions League. Do you know what I was until I saw the draw for the third qualifying round? And then I went, lads. Because the promise and the premise of the Europa Conference League, to give it its full title, is that it was supposed to give quote-unquote lesser teams and from lesser leagues an avenue into more meaningful European action. So it's not just 3 qualifiers, 2 qualifiers, and then you're out. It's that, you know, these teams from countries like ourselves and from countries like Luxembourg or from North Macedonia or wherever has a chance to get into the group stages. And then you look at Bows possibly getting PAOK, I think.
We're actually from the old Macedonia. They're from what they would think is South Macedonia.
Exactly. That's why they had to change their name. And then you have Vitesse Arnhem awaiting Dundalk.
We're seated.
Should they get through? And you're like, what's the Jesus point in this? It's just like the Europa League, but not as good.
Yeah. Well, I hope those teams take it seriously, you know, because I think like the likes of the Spurs, like, what are they going to think of it, you know? But I think, in fairness, like the game, we were both at the game in the Viva Stadium last week. That was brilliant, like, you know. And you're playing a team roughly comparable to you, and the next step is a team that I think Bows have a chance of beating. So I'm kind of a fan, and like the prize money's quite good. Like, so it's not like you're thrown into this third-tier competition and it's rubbish, because like, was it 300 grand and so on and so forth per round. So I'm kind of a fan.
Last week, what did you make of the occasion at the Aviva for Bows and Stjarnan? Obviously, the result is fantastic from a Bows point of view, but I think a lot of people who don't necessarily have an LOI on them would be ingratiating fans back to the Aviva, having 6,000 there. It's now going to be up to 8,000 for Dudlonge next week. What did you make of the whole machinations of it all?
I loved everything about it. Like, I walked from down the canal, and the closer you got to, like, Balls Bridge, just this swarm of Bows jerseys. And the thing was, like, it wasn't one Bows jersey, it was like the Bows jersey with the Refugees Welcome, it was the Bows jersey with the Fontaines, it was their lovely home jersey, and it was like, Bows are becoming a big deal here. Like, and I spoke to Bows fans after the game. You could have a beer after the game along the canal, like in your t-shirt at like 10:30 or whatever, and the Bows fan was saying to me, I don't recognise an awful lot of these Bows fans. That's a bit strange for a League of Ireland fan, because usually you kind of know everyone. And then as for the game itself, like, I didn't think Stjarnan were much good, to be fair, but like, just to see League of Ireland players who a lot of them hadn't really played there before just take to the venue, and Dawson Devoy, like the performance he produced, the noise the 6,000 fans could make in a 50,000 seater stadium, whatever, the old triangle, 3 goals, you know, a lot of kind of happy people to be able to watch football again in a beautiful stadium. It was just fantastic. I loved it.
The occasion was absolutely perfect because the night itself was gorgeous. I came in from the Beggar's Bush kind of direction and up towards the stadium there, and like you say, Bows jerseys were strewn everywhere. A lot of them with that members jersey, obviously for the people who bought in over the year. But the occasion was fantastic. The weather suited it perfectly, and then we had a really commendable game of football from the Bohemians team, and a lot of the focus and the attention afterwards was on Dawson Devoy and the performance he put in midfield. Ross Tierney obviously has caught a lot of eyeballs this year. There is a pretty high ceiling for a couple of players in that Bows team that maybe extends beyond Dalymount Park in the League of Ireland, you'd suggest.
Yeah, and then like young Mullins, who scored like, what is he, 16 or something, like already kind of been touted as a replacement for Devoy, who himself is a teenager. And Devoy, as Keith Long said afterwards, he was controlling the game, and that, like, to control a game of football at that age is quite extraordinary, you know. So this whole Kevin's link-up that Bows have, I mean, the future of Irish football, a lot of it will have to do with the harmonious relationship of the feeder club like Kevin's and Bows, and the players that Kevin's and Bows have produced. Like the goal that Mullins got actually on Sunday, I thought was special for anyone to do that. He's controlling all that. But Ross Tierney, I'm a massive fan of him. Like, he's the one player, if I were a League of Ireland manager, I'd want to sign him. He's a complete pest if you're a defender, but he's this understated technical quality that I think people don't give him. Like, I've spoken to people within the league and they're like, he's no Dawson Devoy, but like pound for pound, I'd say he's actually almost produced as much for Bows this season as Devoy, if not more, in terms of goals, chances, winning the ball back all the time. Kid from Ballymun, you know, playing at that level, it's just fantastic. And then Andy Lyons at the back, Talbot, I think. I mean, a lot of these players could be playing at a higher level. I really think that. And Bows have done this relatively on a smallish budget. They've won the money to get into the next round. They have a lot of valuable commodities now. Whether Devoy will stay, I think he's out of contract at the end of the season, so that's like kind of a, I don't know what you make of that, what'll happen there. Because for the young player, it is a difficult one. He doesn't necessarily want to be tied down if it means he can't leave, but I think he should stay for a while longer. He's getting, and he's playing in the Aviva Stadium. He's playing in Europe. He's not going to get that where he goes next.
Yeah, that was my worry last week from even from a neutral's perspective, is that Bows haven't played there before. And it's a massive stadium, it's a massive pitch, it's a huge occasion, and that they might be overawed by it. And I think bar the first 2 minutes, I think they really got stuck in and really looked like they took to the place, and it didn't seem a bother to them. And when you have teenagers who are out to play on that stage and who are able to, you know, absorb the occasion the way they did, I mean, that's a really commendable thing from a football team, and to the way they're managed, I guess, as well.
Totally, and like the cup final, and I don't want to talk about the cup final at this moment for too long, but the cup final has been a lot of Shamrock Rovers, mainly Dundalk and Cork, mainly Dundalk, a bit of Shamrock Rovers. Like, if Bows were to get there this season, it's made for them. Like, the crowd they would bring those players back to the Aviva Stadium. And I think you're right, it shouldn't be understated. Like, they could have frozen on that occasion, but I don't know, is it just being young and just having no fear, really? I think they're an exceptionally well coached team. Like, they've always punched above their weight. Now, it was disappointing they couldn't beat Longford, because you have to kind of respond, and they're not guaranteed European football through the league next season. They have to kind of get through that. But the quality of Devoy's little jink in the penalty box for the first goal, you know, the pass even from Buckley for Bert's goal, the little back flick from Tierney that Devoy should have scored from, there was an awful lot of quality. And that's the type of game that we need on TV, because I think generally League of Ireland like games don't get great viewer figures, and a lot of it is because it doesn't look great. I mean, Oriel Park is a kip basically, like, and you know, play that game in Oriel Park and it's not the same. Like, the pitch is bad, the ground is a ramshackle. Play in the Aviva Stadium and everything looks beautiful. Yeah.
You mentioned that they have a decent chance of getting through this week, well, over the course of the next week or so against Dudlange. They're aside from a country, I don't think Irish fans need a reminding of how their pedigree is on the up. Dudlange themselves got to the group stage of the Europa League last year, so they're no mugs in that sense. It's not as if you would come up against a Progress Niederkorn, as Cork City did maybe a few years ago, and think that you have a 50-50 chance of going through. I think Dudlange will be the favourites for this one, but you seem to think they have a chance.
They would be the favourites, but the other Luxembourg teams haven't performed well, and it's kind of like collateral form in racing now. You're trying to take something from column A, something from column B, and look in the middle and see, like, can we mix these up? But for me, take that out of the way. Bows they're in the middle of their season, and they've had 2 European games. The confidence they would have gotten from that occasion, and I think it's a massive plus. Like, we're probably both a bit nostalgic for winter football. Like, I think, you know, when I was in the Seaside, when I was in the Carlisle grounds the other day, I was like, I remember this place when it's Baltic, and for some reason I was like, I'd actually prefer that at the moment. But if since we moved to summer football, the Bows have a massive advantage going in there in the middle of their season with a very strong squad, players spring off the bench, and having won the 2 games, and they're taking on, pardon the pun, because it's not going to be cold, but they're taking on a team who's coming in a bit cold.
Georgie Kelly, 2 words. He's had an incredible season. Like, he really has, and I don't think much was expected of him coming in, because they'd lost Andre Wright as the striker. They had brought in Georgie, who was let's say, peripheral at the last couple of clubs he's been at. A lot was expected of him, I guess, at Pats and at Dundalk, and never really came to fruition. Keith Long took a punt on him, and it's paying dividends hugely this term.
Yeah, because the 2 goals he got were just, when everything is going right for you, like the second one, he literally robbed the ball off Liam Burt. Liam Burt went on a run. The ball, Georgie kind of lost the ball. It hit off Dawson Devoy's head. Liam Burt, who's like probably seen stars here, to quote Troy McClure, and he's going to shoot, and Georgie just robs the ball, like scavenges the ball off him, and doesn't think anything of it on his left foot and scores. And the first goal, I think Dawson Devoy is trying to shoot there.
Yeah.
There's Georgie, bang, should have scored a third. To be honest, like I thought his general hold-up play wasn't that great at times, and that's something that was probably a criticism of him at St. Pat's and to an extent at Dundalk, but he wasn't scoring at Pat's. And whatever way you say it, and like Stephen O'Donnell and Pat's have had a great season, Long and Crawley, and I think principally the players behind him have gotten the best out of him, and the last few weeks everything he touches turns to gold. And like I sent him, I very rarely like text Georgie Kelly, but we done a podcast with him recently, so I texted him after the game and I said like well done or whatever, and all he wanted to talk about was Dawson Devoy.
What kind of a fella is he like?
Like honestly, you could not meet a nicer bloke, an absolute gent. And spoke to him after the Rovers game in the league, and it's a funny thing, like, because he'd gone on a goal scoring spell, but he hadn't gotten that many important goals at that time. And then he scored against Rovers, and it was again a goal of a player full of confidence. And he was like a fella who was just like walking on water. He's such a high, and you kind of remember like when you play a game of sport and you've done well, and you come off the pitch, that feeling, it's hard to describe, but when you do it at that level, he's just absolutely loving life. And I think that Bows squad, there's a special kind of bond between some of them players, and Georgie, he's totally unrecognisable, like literally unrecognisable from the player he was 12 months ago. Like he's completely, and he didn't start well for Bows either. And a few people, Bows fans, were saying to me, what have they done here? And I was talking to another Bows fan, and Long said at the start of the season, trust me on this is going to work out for us. And like some of their signings have like just worked out exceptionally well, but none better than him.
Yeah. On the other side of the European coin then, this week we have Dundalk playing Levadia Tallinn. How do you judge that one to go? Because again, it's a 50-50. Dundalk have actually been in a really good run of form since Vinnie Perth has come back into the club.
Yeah, Dundalk last season, it was almost like they parked all their troubles when they got to Europe, and as much as they lost all their games in the Europa League group stages, they scored 8 goals, like, which is no mean achievement. That was a really tough group, playing against Arsenal, obviously, a couple of other good sides as well. But this season, I think Vinny coming in fairness, like the whole thing is a mess. Like I don't know what they're doing with Patrick McElhenney, when they're going to sell him. I don't know what the owners are going to do at the end of the season. But Vinny has come in, and he's like, it is the steady the ship analogy. That's exactly what he's done. And they've scored 5 goals in Europe. They haven't conceded. They've serious talent in that team. Like they've Will Patching at Derry was one of the best players in the league this season. Now Dundalk have him back. They've Patrick McElhenney. They've Michael Duffy. Macmillan's performances in Europe are up there with the best League of Ireland player has ever done. Historically, maybe they're still a bit ropey at the back. I wouldn't be sure about the goalkeeper, but I think they go in there confident enough. They've come through a couple of good performances in the league. Again, like Tallinn, Estonian clubs, League of Ireland clubs would generally be thinking they'll beat the Estonian club. Levadia Tallinn aren't a bad side. I'd say it's probably 50-50, but I think Dundalk, I also think, and we spoke about the heat, I actually think not playing in Oriel, like if you play Astro, and Oriel is a bad Astro pitch at the moment, all those little black pellets, I'd say it could be 5 degrees hotter on the pitch. Yeah. Playing in Tala, which they like, will be a far better option for them. And I hope they get a crowd. Like, I hope people support them, because they're Irish players that deserve a shot at more European glory, and I think they'll do okay.
On Will Patching, he was somebody who was brought over from, I think he came through the Man City youth system, wasn't it?
He was there for since he was a nipper.
Yeah, Vinnie Perth signed him initially, and then he didn't really get used initially under Perth at the start of last season. Then when Vinnie left, I don't think Filippo Giovagnoli and Rassie knew what they were doing with him. He obviously went on loan the start of this term to Derry City, and has begun to show the player that I think, like when Vinnie was out of the Dundalk job, a name that kept cropping up when he was mentioning the talent in the Dundalk squad was that of Will Patching, and he's definitely showed it for Derry this season, and now he's transferred that form again to Dundalk.
Yeah, like I love the story of a League of Ireland player who's a kind of a left field signing from abroad, but then moves on to a different League of Ireland club, like say Ali Coote, who's like becoming a really good player for Bows. And Will Patching was a cult hero at Derry. Like, he was just, his set pieces, like I'd never seen anyone with as good a set piece in the League of Ireland as Jack Byrne, but Patching was well up there. His delivery, his trajectory, the power. But Rory Higgins spoke about in general play as well. He did a lot of the dirty work, which he didn't expect. Now, I'm fairly sure he didn't want to leave Derry. Like, he was happy there, things were going well, but he's come into Dundalk. I watched the game against Newtown, who were poor, but he was just in second gear, and he's so much ability. He should be playing at a higher level, but I don't know what you think. I think sometimes these kind of fancy number 10 type players, I think they're more at home in the League of Ireland than going to a team in England where they might have to graft more and they might be put out in the wing. I think they're given more of a kind of a license to roam, maybe like Jack Byrne here. And he's just a beautiful footballer to watch. And him and McElhenney are like when you're playing a game of Astro and they're two lads who are vastly superior to everyone and they just want to pass the ball to each other. That's the way they are. They're just looking for each other, little flicks, and it's beautiful to watch. And we're very lucky to have him in this league.
Yeah, we are indeed. A busy weekend coming up, the amazing title race, and that needs mentioning as well, because I think at the start of this season it did look like it was going to be a procession because Rovers were in such imperious form that they were going to run away with this league. We've had Pats challenging them, we've had Sligo Rovers with an excellent squad under Liam Buckley challenging them as well. That's all parked now because we've got the first round of the FAI Cup, and your beloved Galway United have a hell of a time there, Hans. Yeah,
like the whole Shamrock Rovers thing, I thought, like most people, I thought they'd probably win the league comfortably enough. They went through this wobble, which a lot of it seems to be to do with the fact that, like, they have a big squad, but for some reason they seem to be stretched. Then I think they had a turning point in the season was last week where they played against Slovan Bratislava. Now, they rode their luck in many respects, but at the same time, they were very unlucky because they should have gotten a free and arguably should have brought the game to extra time, in which case I think they may have gone through. So they didn't kind of sulk over that because they went up to Derry. There was a massive COVID scare. It looked like they might have to play like a lot of their 19s. They went 2-0 down, and I would defy anyone to look at a better League of Ireland comeback. They absolutely ran riot, and Graham Burke, some of his play was off the charts. Dylan Watts, what a footballer. He's back in. He was brilliant. Gaffney got a contender, I think, for one of the best goals we've seen this season. Joey O'Brien is back. Kavanagh is back. I don't know. I kind of watched that Derry game, and I was like, yeah, if they play like that, there's nobody going to beat them this season. But Galway United... do you know the way, Richie? I love a run at the Cup. I'm supporting Galway United since I was like 16. I've never seen them win anything. I've seen them got to a Cup semi-final. It'd be great to do something, and then you're drawn against Shamrock Rovers away. Yeah. So it's not... Like, Galway United are going great, but it's a completely different level. John Caulfield has said we've no chance. We've probably a slightly better chance than no chance. You kind of get them when they're preparing for Europe and they do have a title race. There is that sense that you could catch them at least off balance a little bit and cause a shock. Maybe get it to extra time. Maybe, cause a bit of a shock and knock them out. Especially for a Galway side who've improved. They've been on an upper curve this season. We talked about Shamrock Rovers, who started off great guns. I was worried about Galway because they had such a brilliant end to the season last year under John Caulfield. He's a man who, through his exploits with Cork City, would know Rovers pretty well, would know how they tick, would know how to beat them as well. And you would think that it's something... As soon as I hear John Caulfield saying, we have no chance, I'm kind of like, they have a bit of a chance here. Yeah, because I think, like, I was trying to... I'm the Galway United media officer here, so, like, whatever I say, you can kind of basically turn away now or whatever. But I was like, is he being mischievous here or is he not? And I think he was half being mischievous. But you can easily make the case that the levels they're playing at, we have, like, we were in Bray, we drew 0-0 or whatever, so that was grand. The problem with it is, I think Shamrock Rovers have a lot of players coming back. Richie Towell has played, like, 3 or 4 games. They'll probably want him to play. Dylan Watts is just back in. If they don't play Gaffney up front, who's from Tuam, and I think wanted to play for Galway United when he was younger, they could play Aaron Green. So, like, it's in Tala as well instead of in Galway. But I think, in fairness to Galway United players, you've got to embrace occasions like this. There's no pressure on them. It's very, very unlikely, but stranger things have happened, possibly. For the quote-unquote bigger teams, it has been a pretty favourable draw, you have to say, throughout. Well, 4 all non-league games, which means that a quarter of the teams in the last 16 will be non-league teams. So you could fluke your way into a semi-final without really playing anyone particularly hard. Yeah. Bows have gotten College Corinthians. College Corinthians down Turner's Cross, yeah. Yeah, so it's like the context of the League of Ireland. Like I like, obviously, we all like the underdog, but like football at that level, COVID has absolutely decimated it. So it's particularly hard at the moment. The League of Ireland clubs are on a different level now with their the way they approach the games, their physicality, fitness and all that. It's hard to see any kind of real... Sligo and Cork is the mad one. Sligo and Cork, I was just going to say, yeah. Because I think when Ruby Walsh was reading it out, and this is a typical kind of, like, Ruby would half follow it, so he's like, Sligo, Cork, that's a big game. Look where Cork have gone. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, they if this is rock bottom, this must be rock bottom. It's so bad. Like, it couldn't beat Wexford. The fans are up in arms. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes there. Colin Healy looked apparently like really crestfallen after the game. But maybe this is something Sligo come in on a wobble after 2, bad defeats. Drogheda of Derry's the game of the round, obviously, but it's not a particularly glamorous one. But as a Bohs fan, you must be thinking like the crack you would have.
I just want to get to a cup final.
Wouldn't it be amazing, even if it's half full or whatever?
I don't care. I want to get to a cup final. I haven't been at one since. We haven't been at one since what, 2008? We won the double.
Oh yeah.
And that was in a freezing cold RDS. With Johnny Logan and Paul McClune singing before the game, that it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I want to get back there again. I want to get to the Aviva.
Do you know how the FA Cup has lost a lot of its lustre? There's no doubt about that. Yeah. And the FAI Cup was going along the same trajectory, but then when it got back into the Aviva Stadium, I think it changed everything. I think everyone wants to get there.
Everyone wants to get to the Aviva. Yeah. Everyone wants to have that evening or that day or whatever it is at the Aviva Stadium, and it was helped by the fact that when I went back there, we had a couple of crackers, and I think Sligo Rovers and Drogheda and stuff like that have a lot to thank for that. But it's going to be a busy weekend, and best luck to everybody who's involved in the FAI Cup first round action. A team from out my old way as well. St. Moctas are playing Crumlin United as well, so there's lots going on across the board. Johnny, thank you so much as ever for coming in.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.